You rolling? Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here for this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. Before we get started, would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? And Councilman Lupinacci, would you lead us tonight?
Sure.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Okay, once again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here. Before we get started, I just want to announce that the funeral mass for the Chief Warrant Officer from the United States Coast Guard who was killed a week or so ago up in Alaska, the funeral mass is going to be held this Friday at 11:30 a.m. at St. John's here in Mahopac. If anybody would like to attend that and pay your respects to the family, it's this Friday, 11:30 a.m. His name is Michael Kozlowski. He was a 2001 graduate of Mahopac High School that was a career Coast Guardsman, and he was tragically killed in a crane collapse accident in Homer, Alaska, a week or so ago. He leaves behind a wife and 4 young children. So our thoughts and prayers are with him and, of course, his entire family during this very difficult time. But I was notified today that the funeral mass will be at St. John's Church this Friday, 11:30. Okay, so before we get started, for the record, all board members are present with us this evening, as is our town council all the way down to my left here. And tonight's meeting is the town board work session. But prior to coming out here, the board met in executive session with Police Chief Mike Kazari to consider surveillance security agreement contract, and also with Glenn Drosy, town assessor, to consider certiorari settlement litigation. So we met with them. Chief is here now. And Mary Ann Maxwell, I'm sure you all know Mary Ann, she's the town controller, is going to be joining us for the meeting as well. So, what's that, Chief? Yeah, I guess we could. Yeah.
Should we ask the chief first?
Yeah.
Chief, should I say the location of the security cameras?
Could we mention the location of those cameras?
Correct.
Okay.
It's going to be up in the hamlet of Carmel. The first security camera is going to be up near 52 and Route 6. So that was executive session. So the first security camera will be up in the hamlet.
They're going to be near Reed Library, that intersection there, 6 and 52. These are the first cameras that the chief has recommended that we install. They're going to be throughout the town, but these are the first 2 that will be installed up in the hamlet of Carmel. Okay. Anything else, John? Okay. All right, so the first item on the agenda tonight is a review of the town board minutes of January 16th, 23rd, 2019. Does the board has any comments regarding the minutes? We'll speak about those at this time. I don't believe we do. No. Okay, so work session item agenda number 1, Rich Franzetti, PE Town Engineer, John Falchetti, PE Engineering Consultant. This is to present a report on the Town of Carmel Water District Number 2 collection system. This is something that we've been discussing here for over a year now, I would think. This is about issues with the infrastructure, primarily. It's town-wide, but this is for the Hamlet of Carmel Water 2 collection system. This is a very important topic. You need to pay attention to this. If you're from the Hamlet of Carmel, I think a lot of you folks are, right? This is about your water systems up in the hamlet that are going to need some major work coming up here, in the very near future. And you need to be aware of that because there's going to be a cost attached to that too. John Falchetti, our consulting engineer, is going to present his report on his findings of his analysis of the water district. John?
Thank you. Just in case you don't have one, there's full copies of the report in front of Ms. Pasquarella, and there's also a 3-page summary showing areas of the district that are recommended for improvement, along with recommended project breakout and overall program budget. So if you don't have them, they're located over there.
And we'll have this available on our website as well for viewing at home if you'd like.
The original purpose of collecting the coupons was to determine, as a result of water quality complaints, whether or not our iron pipes could withstand the impact of a reaming operation followed by a lining operation. So the minerals in our water that come out of the plant react with the unlined iron in the pipe, and they make a tuberculated pipe. There's pictures of it in the report that you can see. And consequently, that stuff has a tendency to some degree to wash out depending on how bad it is and where you are in the system. And there's a process known as cementitious lining where you ream out the inside of the pipe, get all of that tuberculation off of it. Then you line the pipe with a cement liner, and basically that prevents the chemical reaction between the minerals and the iron from forming additional tuberculation, allowing the delivery of clean water. And the question is always, does the water create that growth just on the inside wall of the pipe, or does it eat through the wall of the pipe? And if it's the latter, after you ream it, you may not have enough pipe thickness to do the reaming operation and the lining operation. So that was the purpose of collecting the coupons. We collected in the fall of 17, collected 4 from a couple locations, though they're all in the district. And we went back in the summer of 18 after we had the meeting up at the firehouse, and on two different iterations attempted to isolate and cut coupons out of the pipe. And a discovery of this that was an unintended discovery was that our valving arrangements are either inadequately spaced and or not operable enough to be able to shut down the pipe, cut a segment out of it, repair it, and put it back. There's a whole host of reasons for that, but in my opinion, was a valuable discovery. Ultimately, despite the fact that we were unable to collect coupons, the operator, Infomark, kept a very studious contact with us throughout the process, and every time that there was a break where they had a shutdown, they collected a coupon for us. So we ended up with pipe segments that very largely represent what we had intended to cut anyway. Fast forward that, the visual inspection of the pipe walls and a measured analysis of the pipe walls using a digital micrometer says that there's virtually no damage, and all of the unlined pipe throughout the system is assessed to be suitable for reaming and lining. So our findings, to fast forward, is that we don't see any tuberculation in the line pipe, okay? And the unlined pipes where they exist are virtually all tuberculated, and our lines are capable of being reamed and relined using a cement lining. Again, our valving is less than optimal. And the last thing was when we started this process and had a meeting with the county health department, and they asked us specifically to have a look at the line going out to Putnam Hospital. They had some concerns with that. And we were unable to isolate that particular line in the segment south of the Interlochen-Houston Road area because there's not enough valves there, and there's only one line. So we end up with a series of recommendations, okay, that say we should reline our water mains in areas with a history of complaints and that have unlined iron. In the report and the very first sheet of the short handout, you see highlighted in yellow the areas that are known to be iron pipe and that are recommended for reaming and lining. Discussions with multiple contractors who specialize in this and recognize that world is a much smaller world of contractors than guys who just dig ditches and lay pipe. This is a very specialized approach. But uniformly, their estimates are on the order of $125 to $150 a foot. The process involves the installation of temporary water supply along roads and then connections to the dwellings. That connection can either be a feed direct to your exterior hose bib, or it could be enter into the house and get in by the meter so that we're bypassing. So for the comptroller's purposes, if we go in, and for the board's purposes, if we go in at the hose bib, by and large, you don't get the bill for the water that's consumed during a period of construction, because you're bypassing the meter. So once the temporary water supply is installed and disinfected and blessed by the health department, we turn that on. The contractor comes in, and either at the location of existing valves or on 500-foot intervals, whichever we have most convenient, they'll cut a 5-foot segment out of the pipe. They'll then enter the pipe with a reamer and basically scrape and clean the inside of the pipe. They'll then purge all of that stuff out of that pipe segment, go in, and if you can envision a small sled with a cement feed hose attached to it, the sled gets pulled through, and there's a 360-degree spray of cement mortar for our pipe diameters about 3/16 of an inch thick. That sprays the entire inside of the pipe. Then, depending on how we do it, but if we took the example of just going through the hose bib, we would then go back and open your curb stop, and the water would feed back through your house service and unplug where your service taps into the main. It's then allowed to cure. A new valve goes in at the location where we've made the cut. The pipe is then disinfected, pressure tested, like we normally do. That submittal goes to the health department. Once the health department approves the disinfection and pressure test results, then the main is turned back on. Production estimates are on the order of 1,000 feet per week. Virtually all of the contractors, I briefed them all that we've got approximately 50,000 feet of pipe, and they all said, if you bid that at one time, you're going to really limit the competition, because there's only a couple of firms east of the Mississippi who can handle a project of that magnitude. So a 10,000-foot project will attract more bidders. So that said, then we're looking at potentially 5 isolated projects, which kind of works out given the layout of the mains that we're talking about relining. So we've got about 52,000 feet of pipe at a range of $125 to $150 a foot to repair it. You're looking at a total project cost of $6.5 to almost $7.8 million. Our second recommendation was to provide an alternative water supply main in Stoneleigh Avenue from Houston Road to Putnam Hospital, because like I said earlier, the hospital is just isolated. And if something happens to that main south of Houston, there's no other way to feed it. If something happens to the main in Houston between McDonald's and where Houston Road comes out right now, we can either get from Houston Road down to Stoneleigh, there's a backlot pipe there that needs replacing, or we can feed the other way around up Mechanic Street and Interlochen. So there's 2 ways to feed that main, but that stops at that spot on the map. So that's the second recommendation. That's new construction. It's about 7,700 feet. Cost estimate between $225 and $250 a foot. So you're looking at about 1.7 to 1.9 million for that. And then the valve replacement program. So as I said, where they cut into the valves where we're lining pipe, you get a new valve. The rest of the system that's not highlighted in yellow, we have our operator, Infomark, runs a valve operation and assessment program for 20% of the valves in the system on an annual basis. So they op check the valves. Do they close? Do they not close? And then the ones that don't work usually get budgeted in the following year for a replacement as part of normal maintenance costs. I'm suggesting, based on what we experienced here over the course of the last year, that the remaining valves in the system, 100% of them get op-checked in a single year, and that whatever doesn't work, get planned for a capital replacement the following year, and we have just a simple valve replacement program. I estimated that by count, there's 100 valves left in the system. I estimated maybe we'd have to replace up to 50% of them, and our spacing is not optimal, so another 25% or 25 valves for a total of 75 at potentially an average cost of $8,000 to $10,000 per replacement. So that's about $600,000 to $750,000. The second sheet of your handout just takes the proposed lining and footage by road and breaks it up into 1 through 5 projects that are all kind of contiguous to one another and all approximate 10,000-foot bids. And then the last page is the fourth table out of the report that takes those 5 lining projects at the cost ranges estimated, and then by project what they would cost, the Houston Road at its cost range, estimated range, and then a valve installation program. It's very early in the game, so there's a 15% contingency because I don't know what's going to happen in terms of what actually gets uncovered during the design. And there's a 17% estimate for soft cost, bond, legal, et cetera. So your total capital cost for that, for all of that water main work ranges from 11 to 13.5 million. Over the summer of 2018, in conjunction with all of this, we put out an RFP to evaluate the replacement of the water treatment plant, which has its own, right, it's 40-some-odd years old almost. So that evaluation is in process. We expect very shortly to be able to deliver to the board an estimate of the future demand for that plant and the yield capacity of Lake Oneida, whether the lake itself is capable of supporting the future demand. So obviously these items need to be coordinated with one another because this is not the end, not the bottom line limit of what the capital expenditure is within the district. And then there's the last component of it, obviously, is the storage component. And the tanks were evaluated 4 years ago. This is the 5th year they're due for another evaluation, and we know that there's capital work that has to be done on those. In a nutshell, that's it. And that's the overview of the report.
Okay. Thank you, John. So it sounds like there could potentially be a cost of, with the water distribution system and the water treatment plant, a combined cost of $25 million? Is that?
I don't think that that's out of the question.
It's not, right?
I mean, quite clearly, we don't have a number on the plant at this point in time. And we don't have, because we don't have a future demand, I can't even quote to you. We've got a 1 MGD, a million gallon a day plant now, okay, that's treating on an average about 800,000. That's what we're doing today. So if you look 30 years in the future, what does that plant look like? And that's the demand analysis that we're waiting from Hazen and Sawyer. I would expect that we can deliver that in a couple, I'm hoping to be able to deliver that, or Rich and I can deliver it in a couple of weeks for the board's assessment. And then you'll have a general,
So we'll have a
a
clear
better
picture.
order of magnitude.
Right, of going
picture,
forward, how we're
right,
gonna.
of what the whole thing looks
Right.
like.
Right. But the water distribution system is what we presented here tonight in your report, and the users are here, not all of them, but there's represent a, I'm glad you all came, by the way. I appreciate you all showing up for this because, you really need to educate yourselves on this, on what the impact is going to be for you fiscally, as far as what the cost is going to be. And you heard some of the costs here tonight, and it's high. They're very high numbers. But water is something we have to take care of. We have to address it now as opposed to waiting, because the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost. And the longer you wait, the more your water, you're going to have issues with your water, like some of you do have. So this is something that needs to be addressed. We have to deal with this issue. Unfortunately, you're the ones that are going to be paying for the cost of it, the users in the Carmel Water District Number 2. But it's something that, you know, it's important to, water's important to all of us. From a health perspective, and there's a lot of things that go along with it. So we're going to have to move forward and take care of this. It's just that we need to understand, you know, what that plan is going to be going forward. When is this all going to take place? I'm sure you're all going to have that question. You know, when are we going to do this? But that's something that we're going to have to discuss as a board. I think you know the answer. The sooner the better. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the residents that are here now to come up and ask questions, concerns, comments that you have with respect to the report that you just heard tonight, and what your personal thoughts are and what your feelings are about you know, this getting taken care of in an expeditious manner, as opposed to waiting and waiting and waiting. We're not going to wait any longer. The longer we wait, the worse it's going to get. So who would like to come up? Just raise your hand if you want to speak. John?
Supervisor, just so you know, in the April meeting that's going to be held in the Carmel Firehouse, we were asked to give a presentation on Water 2. That presentation is going to be the more holistic view of everything. So it's going to go through not just what we talked about tonight, but some of the points you touched upon. And hopefully by that time, we'll have better answers with regards to the study from Hazen and Sawyer. And we'll also have, you know, I'll have tank costs because I'm still researching that.
Storage
So,
numbers?
Yeah, I'll have them. And I have meetings set up. I have a whole bunch of things going on. So, you know, nothing happens immediately, unfortunately, when I'm also calling other government agencies to get answers from them. So, but that'll be there for that meeting. Sorry, Mr. Butler. Go ahead.
Yeah,
No, no
so you all had, I'm sorry, John, you all had an opportunity to see the coupons that were cut out and what they look like on how tuberculated they are and how dirty and disgusting they are.
Ken,
That's the issue.
Maybe hold up some pictures for the camera, just so people at home can see as well.
This is a good one. This
That's
is
a
where I
good
get
one.
my
Yeah,
camera, that's
yeah,
right.
if you hold it toward, all right. All right, John. It's on your block?
Yeah, this is Everett Road.
Everett Road?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Everett Road, so this is
So
where
that-
Kelly Ridge, Everett, Hillside, and a portion of St. Michael's, this is where our water comes from.
So that explains why your filter looks the way it does.
Yeah, it explains a lot of things. All right, so I'm John Butler, Hamlet of Carmel, Kelly Ridge Road. I have several questions. Number one, as I recall, and I may be wrong here, there was a attempt at relining, was it up on Belden Road? Where was the last project done?
Those were replacements. There was no,
Okay. Was there initially, though, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there initially a plan to reline those
there was
mains?
a contemplation of that, okay, and that was why we originally started cutting the coupons to figure out whether the pipe would withstand it. Okay, but then there came I guess it was the fall of 17. Okay, there was too much complaining, and we couldn't guarantee, based on what we saw in the pipes up there, that we would be able to continue to deliver it, so the board went with the emergency water main replacement in that segment.
Okay, could you, sorry, I'm not the sharpest knife on the drawer, so could you walk me through that one again? So initially, the concept initially for that project, what road was, what?
The concept for the district, there wasn't a concept specifically for that project. That project grew out of a series of complaints and sessions similar to this where
Yeah.
residents came in
I
and
get that.
complained.
Okay, so those road, whatever, wherever that replacement project was conducted.
It's Glen Ida Ridge, Glenview,
where?
and 301.
Thank you.
Route
Thank you.
301.
So that particular project, which ultimately was a replacement of the lines, okay? So at the beginning of that investigation and planning process, was relining of those lines contemplated?
It was. That was the purpose of the initial evaluation. But based on the public hearings that took place at the time, the board decided to go forward with a water main replacement immediately in that segment.
Okay, next question. How did a public hearing change? I don't understand. It seems like an engineering concept, an engineering operation. How did a public hearing change, not that it was a bad thing, don't get me wrong. How did the public hearing change conceptually from relining to replacement?
That's a question for the board. I don't have that answer. Okay. I designed a job, bid the job, and we're building a job.
Let me take you off the hook here for a second. The reason I'm asking all of these questions is, if it happened once, and again, this is what we're looking at, and I presume most of the other districts are looking at. If it happened once, i.e. we changed from a relining concept to a replacement concept, I'm trying to understand why that isn't going to happen again. And importantly, the ramification of that is now we got to delay for another year and another year and another year. So I'm trying to, I guess the question is, how do we know it's not going to happen again?
So I believe, my belief professionally is that the lining will do as much for your water quality as a replacement will. It's way less intrusive and way more cost efficient, so.
I get all of that. I'm just not getting
Okay,
an
and
answer
it's-
to my question.
You're
I
asking.
asked the question 4 times. I guess it's to the board now. How did we, a public hearing, change the relining approach to a replacement approach? Because again, the importance of it being, is it going to happen again, or could it happen again? For us.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah, no, I agree, John. Could it happen again? No, I would hope that it wouldn't. We see what we're dealing with here. And the engineering department is recommending some relining at various locations as opposed to new pipe in the ground. We're really going to base that decision on the professionals, our engineers, the consultants. The board, from a fiscal standpoint, as far as cost goes, yeah, we'll weigh in on that. But as far as the actual technical work, in the ground work, whether it's going to be relined or new in the ground, that'll be on a recommendation from the operators or the engineers.
Okay.
I don't think the board's going to make a decision whether, that, any technical work, any actual practical in-the-ground work on the main should be relined or new. That's not going to be our decision. It will ultimately, but it'll be based on a recommendation from the professionals.
Okay, I'm going to try one last
All
time.
right,
and then
try
I'm
one
gonna
more
give
time.
up.
Maybe I'm missing it.
I'm going to
All right.
try one more time.
All right.
So the prior project that's been completed had initially been planned to be a relining of those water mains, similar to what we're looking at or being proposed here. That did not happen in the case of those 3 streets. Instead of relining, the pipes were replaced. Our engineer is indicating that the decision to do that, i.e. replace versus reline, was the result of public comments to the board, and then the board gave instructions not to reline, but to replace. Is that correct?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think
Is that,
what,
is that correct?
yeah,
Yes?
yeah.
Okay.
I think when we had the public hearing, and just let me know if I'm wrong, after we saw all the coupons that we had, and the people coming here that were there, we saw that they wanted it immediate. And I believe that's when we made it an emergency,
It
right?
was,
We did the emergency, yes. So in answer to your question, yes, we changed our mind because of the public brought all of their groundwater or your filters per se. And when we saw this.
Yes.
It was like, oh my God. So we made that an emergency and went to them replacing instead of relining.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just want to ask, and I could be wrong, but John, just one question. If we replace or replace or reline the ones coming out, it'd be the same time frame, meaning like to get the job started, right?
Yeah, I think you need to put out, there's a recommendation in there that you can put this job out as a single, right, a single professional services contract to do the design for all of this, but that you break the actual construction up into 5 projects. And so the execution of the 5 doesn't mean necessarily 1 per year. What it means is you got to be able to manage conceivably 3 to 5 over a 1 to 2 year period.
Okay.
Okay, so that conceivably, if you were to start the design process this spring immediately. right,
I get that.
So did I answer the
You could
question,
then
John?
be in the
You
ground.
did
Okay.
answer the question. Actually,
Okay.
you did answer the question.
All right.
And a little poll from the crowd. Does anyone think this constitutes an emergency? Thank you, because I certainly do. This is what we're drinking through right now. And how does this, and this is just Everett Road, the others are similar, just out of curiosity, how does this differ from that prior project in terms of the condition of the mains and the pipes and the decision to do a replacement versus a relining? I'm trying to get, how is this different than what was different
what-
back then?
Me personally, I don't think that it is any different, but I wanted to get all the information and bring it to you guys with the cost, because unfortunately, it's gonna come out of your pockets. Do you wanna do the relining? Do you wanna do that? I think this is absolutely disgusting, and I would not wanna drink from it, and
Thank you. I think we pretty well,
Yeah.
I don't think
I think
anyone
we've-
disagrees with
I think
that.
we've all arrived at that. We've all agreed.
Yeah, and that's why we're,
You know,
yeah, that's why we're.
part of the problem, John, with the Glenida Ridge and Glenview project was that it was declared an emergency, it was during the winter months, and in order to reline, you would have had to shut the system down and put temporary surface pipes
On top.
up on top on the roadway, along the
Right.
shoulder of the roadway. And during the winter months, especially with the winter we had, whenever we started this project, that wouldn't have worked. So I think that's why the board, one of the reasons the board decided, because it was considered an emergency and we wanted to move on it pretty quickly, that the relining wasn't going to be an option.
Okay. Just, I don't want to take up all the time, just another question, similar, related topic, and we've talked about this for the past 4 weeks. The Everett Road storage tank. You referred to storage tanks. So we know, just based on what we've heard over the past few weeks that we've been discussing, that that tank was inspected 4 years ago. I thought it was 5 years ago, I heard, but whatever. At that time, it was rated as quote-unquote poor. This is what the board advised during one of the meetings. And that at that time, 4 years ago or 5 years ago, a recommendation by the contractor who did the inspection of the tank, which I think was Pittsburgh Tank, a recommendation was, hey, the potential exists that you can reline it, meaning reline the interior of the tank, probably cost $200,000 to $300,000, and that'll get you, X amount of years of further use. I don't know what it was. So we know that nothing was done over the past 4 or 5 years. And it's my impression, understanding, again, just based on our various discussions over the past 3 or 4 weeks, that tank which has had 4 leaks, the latest occurring just last month. And again, during the discussions we've had, I asked the question, I think, a couple of weeks ago, so how many leaks have other tanks, storage tanks in Carmel Water District Number 2, how many other leaks have there been? The answer is none. The only leaks that have occurred are on the Everett Road tank. There's been 4 of them. I've actually seen 3 actually happening. It was quite amazing. And now, at least I'm getting the consensus that the tank is beyond repair and needs to be replaced, and needs to be replaced damn fast. Anything I said incorrect there?
I haven't been advised that it needs replacement now. So I'm not sure.
Well, what does that mean? You're the engineer. Who would advise you of that?
I don't know, you just said that you've been told that, so.
No, I didn't say I said that discussion
Okay.
has been held during the board. So you have to,
I don't
Listen.
believe that it needs immediate replacement. That's not.
when's the last
My-
time you
my
inspected it? I saw your expression when I told you there was a leak last month. You looked a little surprised at that.
No,
Did you not know that?
No, I did know that. I
Okay.
confirmed, yes.
So in your professional opinion, therefore, this tank doesn't require replacement?
No, I didn't say that. Okay, what I said
Does it
was I
require
have not-
replacement?
I don't know that. I don't know. I would rely on somebody who.
Did
is
you
a
look at the
professional.
reports from 4 years ago?
I did. I commissioned the reports from 4 years
So
ago.
you looked at you commissioned them, you looked at the reports, you've inspected the tank recently, you're a professional engineer, and you're saying it does need to be replaced or doesn't need to be replaced?
I didn't say either one of them, and I'm not going to sit here, not having looked at that report in a year, and tell you that it needs replacement immediately. I will tell you that it could use another inspection.
So
by
we're having
somebody
this
who goes
meeting
inside.
tonight, you referred to storage tanks, and you didn't look at the report knowing that it's involving CW2.
No, we're having this meeting tonight to discuss this report, okay? Not the tank report. The tank report stands by itself.
Okay.
It's good for what it's good.
So we don't know whether or not the Everett Road tank, storage tank, needs to be replaced.
John, we all know the Everett Road storage.
Well,
tank.
no, I'm asking these two guys, these are the professionals. I want to hear from these guys whether or not they think the tank needs to be replaced or not. Just give an answer. Say yes, say no. Don't talk about not reading reports for a year. It really upsets me
I haven't
to
looked
hear
at that. That's good that it really upsets you, John, and I apologize
thank
for
you.
that. But here's the point.
upset
I
about a
haven't
lot of
looked at that
things.
tank in a year, and I haven't looked at the report, and consequently, I'm not going to give you an opinion that says it needs replacement until I have an opportunity to do so. That's
Okay.
my answer.
I'll just ask the next question. So when are we going to know that? When is that assessment and report going to
John,
be issued?
that's what I asked.
I think Rich
Okay,
answered
thank you.
it.
I opened up,
answered it.
go ahead, Board, I'm sorry.
No,
No,
we're
you-
saying.
Rich, you said you're gonna have it by April.
I opened it up, but the April 24th meeting, I'll have it. I'm still doing the research, getting costs to either replace it or reline it, to figure out what's going on. April 24th is when we'll be up at Carmel, and we'll have the results by then with regards to this.
Excellent.
I've talked to you before, Mr. Butler, about this, and I am reviewing it, and I've met with tank manufacturers out there. I have a price for a new tank.
Okay.
But a new tank is just a tank, not any of the other work that's associated with it.
I totally get it. All I was asking was a question. Now you've told me that in about 11 days, we'll have an answer to the question. That's all.
John,
That's all you need.
April.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The April
41 days. We'll have an answer to the storage tank question.
And that'll be, and it'll have a little more information with everything else that we're discussing.
And maybe you'll be able to take a look at the reports from 4 years ago. Spend 10 minutes.
John,
Okay, that's all I have to say. Thanks a million.
John,
Yes.
almost a year ago to the date, that curtain was open, and there were about double the amount of people here.
Mhm.
And Greg Elner was commenting about the filtration plant. Everybody was talking about the storage, somebody was talking about, and I said to you that night that this is not a $2 million fix, and that's what they went for, 2.2 or something. And the emergency word was used, which at that point, I didn't agree why. I thought money could have been saved back then. But I'm going to tell you again, and I said it a year ago, you're looking at $30 million, give or take 10%, for your filtration plant, for your distribution, and for your storage. And it does not include all your storage tanks, and it does not include all your distribution. A year ago,
Right.
the interest rate has been raised 3 times, I believe, maybe 4 times since that meeting, which affects the bond by what, a third of a point, quarter of a point? So the longer this gets pushed down, the more it's going to cost you. It has to be done. It can't be piecemealed. I don't agree with a lot of things here. I don't agree with the new line to Putnam Hospital. I think they should be getting a water source somewhere else, which is already set up for that. I don't believe with splitting the project. So there's still a lot of discussion to be made on it, but you're looking at $30 million. It has to be done.
This is the sins of our forefathers, okay?
No
I mean,
question
there's
about
no doubt about it. We are the dead people walking here from a financial point of view. There's nothing we can do about it. It should have been taken care of a long time ago. That is as much on us as residents as it is on anyone else. I'm perfectly willing to accept that. But the fact of the matter is, it needs to be addressed. And I've heard a few times over the past few weeks that government moves slowly. And I heard that, and I heard it, and government doesn't move slowly. People move slowly, because people are the government. And people don't move, and people don't think proactively, and people don't, frankly, do their jobs that they're being paid for. That's what makes things move slow, okay? So I don't want to hear about government moving slow. It's the people that are hired by the government and the people in the government that move slow.
100% correct.
Thanks.
John,
Yes.
let me just say, just real quick on the Everett Road tank. I've been to the tank.
Yes.
The Comptroller's been to the tank. We've seen the tank. She didn't have to go, but we were at a meeting up in Carmel, and I dragged her.
She had
to look-
nothing better to do.
I
It's a
dragged
fun
her to
thing.
look at the tank.
It's a fun trip.
All right, the tank is 43 years old.
Yes.
42 years old, 43 years old. The condition of it is horrible.
Yes.
All right? Why are we even talking about relining it? The tank needs to be replaced. I would forget about the relining, take that off the table. We need a new tank there. We have the property to build a new tank
Right.
adjacent to the old one. Build a new one, dismantle the old one, scrap it for whatever you can get for it, and let's get a new tank over there at that site. What are we waiting for?
I don't talk to
You
these
know-
guys,
you
not
know the
me.
number on the shelf?
Let's just do it.
I mean,
How
don't
much
talk to
was the
me
number
about
on
it.
the
These
shelf?
are the guys. We
I-
gotta sit
but
around,
I-
we gotta wait for 5 weeks.
Hold on, they are the guys, but they're also not the guys.
Right.
If you guys want us to spend $3 million on a new tank, let's do it tomorrow. Start the process to spend $3
Boy,
million.
you know, that's a
It- it-
really
it-
snarky remark
No,
right
but-
there.
but-
You know what? That's a really, really rude remark you just made.
No,
Because this is what we're dealing with here, and these are the people that live in this town, and these are the people that are gonna wind up
I don't
paying
want-
for it.
let's
So
not-
don't get an attitude
let's not
where all
start
of a
with
sudden, you
snarky.
know, yeah,
Seriously.
snarky. That was
The kettle
snarky
is calling
remark.
the pot black right now, so let's not talk about snarky.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Let-
Act respectfully and act like an elected official like you're supposed to. And
want-
don't be sarcastic to the residents in
I'm not
this
being
room.
sarcastic, I'm saying, I'm being sarcastic to you. You
Oh,
want us
well,
just to react?
thanks for admitting
We
it.
should act. But now, here's the question. When we did do the other water district, it's one of the oldest sections. When they opened up some of the coupons, they were missing valves, there were dead pipes, so the replacement was going to be better with the temporary water thing. So there's a bigger story there. But also, half the public, as Mr. Borelli said here, they balked at the price of everything. But there was a group of people that said, let's look at the overall, and then there were people that complete shell shock on the cost. So you might be up here saying, everything moves slow, with dead men walking, you know, the public's slow, the government's slow, the professional opinions are slow, but the public, there's gonna be a great number of public out there that are gonna go, holy bejeebus, look at the money. So you may feel that it's just, let's get it done, but there's gonna be other people that are gonna say, whoa, let's take a look at this, and what is the cost? There's the whole picture, but if you wanna just come up here for the last 4 weeks and just say, let's get it done, then let's get it done. And if no one in the audience doesn't mind all of this cost, $30 million, I agree with your numbers, but if you wanna just say, let's just start doing $30 million, let's do it.
You know what, all I'm saying is, we want to have, for the health and safety of our families, we want clean water.
Agreed.
has to be
Okay,
done.
so as far as, you know, your little speech there, and again,
And you
what
can
I
have your
consider
speech,
to
but I
be
can't have
a
my speech.
disrespectful attitude, not to me, but to the people in this room, and for the matter, the people in the town, well, you just go ahead and do it,
I know,
okay?
just like you.
Yeah,
Thank
right,
you.
just like me. I'm not sitting there, you are.
I know, it's
Okay,
very easy.
you're
to
getting
sit-
paid to sit up there.
It's very easy to sit up there. It's difficult to sit here.
Oh, really?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, good.
Try it.
No, thanks.
Oh, wait, I think you did.
Hey,
No,
John,
John,
Oh,
John,
okay.
John,
You're a
tell you,
real,
it's really
real
difficult.
smart
Thank
guy.
you. Thank you
You're
for.
a real smart
okay?
guy.
Because I move a little faster than government, but government does go slow. The bottom line is, the whole thing is shot. I've said it a year ago. It's shot. All right?
I'm gonna give the chance to some other folks.
30 million, and to do it correctly.
Rich, do you have an approximate cost of a replacement storage tank for the Everett Road tank?
No,
Any
so-
ballpark cost at all?
So the only thing
New
I've
tank.
gotten back so far from a manufacturer was a cost for just the purchase of a tank at $500,000. That does not include demolition, installation, prevailing wage, doing any of the mechanical plumbing for it. It does not include any of that. So you can buy a tank for $500,000.
Multiply that by 3 or 4, right?
Just-
I'd say 4, right?
How much?
So-
You're looking at $2 million.
$2 million.
$2.5 million when you finally do it?
And that's just Everett Road tank.
Well, I think
Well, that's the only tank that we're having.
might
an
be the
issue
only
with.
one that might be.
The only
an
one
issue.
right now.
Today.
The ShopRite tank
Correct,
is.
today.
is-
Today.
You don't wanna be
That-
doing it in
that's
10
what I'm
years from
saying.
now.
So are you gonna fix everything, or are you gonna piecemeal it? All the storage tanks have to be looked at together. And instead of buying
agree.
one, you might have to buy 3.
I agree, Mike. I agree, but the priority storage tank right now, what we're talking about is the Everett Road tank.
No argument. but put the whole picture together so they understand the whole
I
picture.
agree with that, yeah.
If the board would like, at the next, we can't do it for this work session because we didn't prepare, but we can go out and have those tanks assessed to look at, to get that and start that process right now.
I actually thought we
Yes.
did.
No, you haven't, but we could certainly, actually, sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. You haven't, the board, we can recommend that right now. We can go out,
Yes.
put out a bid, an RFP for the tanks to be inspected again, because they're due on their 5-year schedule. At the next voting session, you guys can just vote it and let us do it, and we'll get that piece of the puzzle done.
I want
I-
all the pieces of the puzzle together, so they know exactly.
Okay, so,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
I offer to the board, even though I don't have a memo, and I do apologize for not having that for tonight, because we're talking about it right now, I offer to the board this, and to the public. The engineering department would like to request permission to go out for an RFP to have the storage tanks, the 3 storage tanks in Carmel, Water District 2 inspected. Actually, we'd like to do all the water tanks like we did last time. So it would be all the water districts throughout the town.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. I would suggest do all of the water tanks throughout the town.
Right, so
Because
it would
this
be
way,
all the
Richard-
water districts that have storage tanks will do that.
Yeah, because if it comes back that this may only have a 5-year, one tank may have a 5-year life, we know to start planning it in 3 years.
Okay.
Instead of waiting for the 6th year and saying we're in dire straits now. Yeah. So I would be okay with that, yes.
All right, so
One for me,
at
not that
next
we're allowed
week's
to do
meeting,
this, but.
if you just ask Ray to do the resolution, we'll do that. And I can crank a memo out for the board if you'd like one as a backup to it, or you can just pass the resolution to make us do it.
Yeah, I would say to inspect them all. Thank you.
I don't think you need to do the Everett Roads, an inspection on the Everett Road storage tank. I think we know the condition of that tank. It's gonna come back poor.
Okay, but it's for a matter of completeness, so that we have
I
all pieces of
understand.
the puzzle, we will have that included in as part of it.
Somebody else wanted to speak?
All right,
Yeah, there was a
another
gentleman
hand
in
up?
the back.
Yes.
Jason Fonatowski, resident of Carmel, taxpayer on Kelly Ridge Road. I just wanted to make a comment back to John that Councilman Bonacci? Yes, it might be very difficult to sit up there. It's very difficult to stand up here. It's very difficult to drink out of this. It's very difficult to bathe my children in this. It's very difficult to know what I pay and what I pay over to the comptroller for water and have to put out for Brita water filters, to change constant water filters within the house and throughout because of this. So it is difficult to be on this side as well.
I'm in 14 and I have all those filters too, and I'm not, I'm saying I share what you're saying, I understand, and that's also another reason why, for the other district, we actually declared it an emergency because it's so much, and we were waiting on these coupons. And we can and we will act collectively in the most expedited way that we possibly can, unless the public just wants us, as an implied comment was, let's just get it done. But a project of this magnitude, I don't think we can just get it, we can move forward and get it as done as fast as possible. But I don't know how fast is gonna be, so.
You don't want to get it done tomorrow for $31 million, and in 60 to 90 days, we get done for $29 million. I think that's what John says.
Correct.
Thank you.
I don't think there's any disrespect meant.
Okay, was there anybody else? Carl?
There's other topics on the agenda, but I guess you're not gonna wait till the end of the meeting?
Yeah. Actually,
the
you know
next
what?
one,
we're-
the next
we're-
one.
we're- The next one?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna allow people to come up after the next item
Yeah.
and to comment on that.
Yeah.
Frank? Is this on this one? Frank? Okay.
Hi, Frank Chianca, St. Michael's Terrace. One quick question on the summary. I see the yellow lines are the lines you're recommending relining, and the red line is for a new pipe, is that? That's the supplemental line. Okay, and the gray line is is?
Gray line is either, based on our recommendation, it's either PVC line iron or asbestos.
Okay. I just wanted to mention, you know, it was mentioned almost like in passing, the board will be meeting, having their April work session up at the firehouse in Carmel. And at that time, they will be presenting a summary of this project, and hopefully with numbers. I guess that's what I'm saying is, we'd like to know, $30 million, what does that mean once a month? Okay? I've been here a long time. I was here when everybody was up in arms about $30 million for a sewer project in Carmel. We've already paid that off now, and now here we go, we start again. But, you know, you're a homeowner, you got to deal with it. So anyway, I'm just hoping that by the April meeting, we'd have, this is a complete report, but we'd have more information on the cost and on the water tanks, and as Mike said, on the whole package, everything, and, you know.
You're probably not gonna have numbers on the filtration plant. You're gonna have your distribution, you're gonna have your tanks, and you take that number and double it.
Okay.
It's gonna be a safe
And-
assumption.
And somebody mentioned the water capacity coming out of Lake Oneida. It's a big concern. And it's, you know, with future development, it's going to be more of a concern. So, thank you.
That's part of the report.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Gotta do an RFP. Checking all the tanks for next.
Chandra Cosmo, Kelly Ridge Road. I get the cost, it's fine, I've got paid for it. Couple questions. One, how do we get here, right? Because we go in, we spend this 30 million, or whatever the number's gonna be. How do we ensure 30 years from now, we don't get back in the same spot? Because part of what I don't understand is, I get a statement once a year from the water, saying, here's the quality of the water. And I look at it, I don't really understand everything, but it seems reasonable. So why wasn't that testing? I would have thought something, if the water pipes were that bad, something would have been picked up in the water testing, all right? So maybe we need to reevaluate how we test the water to try to prevent this. Because we are where we are, but how do we prevent it from going forward? Also, the water pressure in Kelly Ridge is not the greatest, all right? It's nice to have, you know, whether new pipes, fixed pipes, new tank, whatever the scenario is, how do we ensure that the water pressure is addressed? And I want to be able to know, what is the pressure expectation coming out from the line into my house, so I know it's not, if it's supposed to be 10 pounds of pressure, PSI, whatever it is, I'm not getting 9.5 or 9.8. I'm getting 12 or 13, so I can actually run the hose in my yard and water the lawn. So, can we also take that into consideration?
Technology, the difference in technology, the difference in the pipe material,
Well, the thickness of the pipe, too.
and the size of the pipe.
So that tuberculation that's in the pipe
Yeah.
affects us in two directions, right? It affects us coming out of the plant, distributing around the system. You're sitting right down the hill from the tank, so you're at one of the high pressure points in the system, but because the pipe is so badly reduced in diameter now, the backfeed coming back to your residence is bad. So the lining process should improve that dramatically. You should be somewhere around 30 PSI on the second floor.
And how can we have that tested once this is all done to ensure that that's actually the PSI coming into our houses?
Well, I don't know that the operator can go in and test the pressure at your house. They can test the pressure at your hose bib.
Right.
Okay, so that could be something that we have done at the conclusion of the lining job as an additional requirement in the spec, that all of the houses or every 10th house or something like that get a pressure tested at the hose bib, so we know we're delivering first floor pressure.
Yeah, because I'm on the upper edge with John and all that, and you know, we don't get much of the gravity feed coming down. Also, is there going to be any implication for the shutoffs Because each of our houses have shut-offs, right? Are those shut-offs gonna need to be replaced?
Right now, so if we were to do a replacement,
Right.
we would go all the way to the curb stand and replace
to the
that,
curb.
replace that shut-off, okay?
Mhm.
The way this, I think I said this, but maybe not. So the little sled gets dragged through the line and it sprays the cement, okay?
Get it.
Sprays the cement lining. So one of two things happens then. If we are fed in, if your house is fed in, all the residents are fed in through the hose bibs in a temporary water supply, that means that your curb stand gets shut off
Okay,
during that temporary water supply process. Okay? So after the lining is sprayed on and it commences to curing, then we would open the hose bibs at each segment, not the hose bibs, I'm sorry, the curb stand, for each of those 500-foot segments it's getting relined,
right,
and pop that bit of cement that got sprayed over the inside of your corporation at the tap, okay? That pressure out coming back-fed out of your house will pop that, and that will reopen the service. So there would not be a replacement of your curb stand under that circumstance.
okay, no, that's good. Justin, sorry, just looking over the notes, 24, to that. So in theory, we shouldn't, so now I'm worried about, if I have to worry about the water line being replaced, right, feeding us, do I also now need to question actually the water pipe, which I know is probably on my responsibility, from the main feed into my house? Because quite honestly, the house is 60-some years old, so it's probably as old as pipes. So I'm assuming it probably doesn't make sense not to check that feed coming from the curb into my house as well, correct?
That'd be your
That'd be-
plumber. But I mean, I'll tell you that if your feed, if your main, excuse me, if your service is copper,
Right?
you're probably in pretty good shape. I mean, you know, that,
It doesn't
yeah, that stuff
doesn't?
just doesn't, it doesn't
Right, no,
erode
it's
badly.
galvanized,
You know, if it's
probably doesn't.
galvanized, you got a different,
Yeah, we'll double check that. How can we get here? Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is, yeah, I get we have to pay for it, but what can we do to be smarter about this, to prevent it and do the testing? Thank you.
John, that's a good point, and was it Chandra? Shonwell. Thing, like, should we put a plan in, like, I'm just saying, 5 years, and put cameras down it to see if there's any of this tuberculation or anything in it? Or, like,
So
is there a
the
certain
issue-
plan we can do?
the issue with water is you can't TV it, because it's not, like sewers, you can TV because you can access it,
Right,
okay? In order to TV water, you'd have to go in every 500 feet, because we want a valve every 500 feet, and that prevents the running of a camera, because the inside diameter, when a valve is open, is a little bit smaller than the inside diameter of the pipe. So
Okay.
you don't, it's not uniform. I'll tell you that the cement line pipes that we have, where we've cut segments out of them, or, you know, made taps into them or repairs, it looks like the inside of this bottle. I mean, I've got some of them at my shop. I'll send you pictures. They're spotless.
okay.
So that's the purpose of
So it's really-
going back with the cement lining, is to improve the flow characteristics and to prevent
And
that
to
kind of
prevent
growth.
this from
okay?
happening.
And then,
Okay.
and the replacement, you know, Mike keeps bringing up the replacement of the plant, and that's a real, our plant is ancient, and it's a DE plant, right, that diatomaceous earth, so we're losing somewhere. Some of that, if you look at, we talk a little bit about sedimentation. If you look at figures, I don't know, somewhere between 7 and 9, you'll see, or the tuberculated pipe, you can see some of the sediment. It's not just growth. There's actually stuff out of the plant. So changing the plant ultimately will also have an
Will
impact
help.
on the quality of the
I see.
water that's delivered.
Okay. Good,
think,
thank you,
The
thank
plant
you.
is scary.
I think another
I've seen
important
it
thing,
a couple of times.
sorry, am I gone?
If you think that pipe is scary, don't visit the plant.
So I think another important thing that we should be looking at as a future project to address this concern, not only in Water District 2, but this will be across all the water districts in the town, across the sewer districts in the town. One thing that we unfortunately don't have for pretty much every part of our infrastructure is a good inventory of the assets that are there, which includes date that they're placed in service, life expectancy, current replacement cost. That's one thing that I think we desperately need for every one of our water and sewer plants. I know that we were part of a pilot program through New York State that is still in the concluding process now, and we are going to be working on utilizing some of that information that we've gathered there so that we could start building a much better database for our infrastructure. Once we have that, I believe that at that point we need to do systematic inspections of our systems through our operators and through our engineering department, and there's got to be a preventive maintenance schedule that's basically implemented. And I think the beginning factor for that is going to be that asset inventory, and then from there we definitely need a preventive maintenance plan. This is unfortunately the culmination of generations and decades of, I wouldn't even say neglect. I think that the majority of the issues we're seeing right now with the pipe is based on the building and construction materials that were utilized most effectively and most efficiently at that time. And unfortunately, these are the sections of the water district that we're looking at that all utilize that same pipe system, which is why if copper's feeding your house, it's not something to worry about. But until we take care of a distribution system, we can work at the plan all we want. As long as the pipes are bad, everything's going to be bad. So one thing that I haven't heard yet, and I'm hoping we already went through consensus on the crowd. By show of hands, who has brown water at their house from this distribution system right now? So there's a good amount of people who have the brown water. How many people have spent money and have gotten plumbers and professionals to say the quality of your water is the reason that you have to replace your furnace, you have to replace your pipe, you have to replace your appliances, you have to replace your toilets? So you're in basically the exact same situation that we saw previously. The reason for the emergency declaration on the last portion was because the devaluation of property, the destruction of property, it was a matter of a financial burden to taxpayers. Given the same circumstances exist here, I know through Department of Health we won't get a ruling that says it's an emergency for health purposes, but because of the financial aspect of it, I wouldn't have a problem declaring an emergency based on that. But I think no matter what we do, we still need to ensure that we're going to have a game plan. Pipes have to be taken care of. Towers have to be taken care of. Treatment has to be taken care of. Possibly alternate plant. Possibly alternate water supply. We still have so much more that needs to go into it. Nonetheless, no matter what happens with towers, what happens with plants, we know we have pipes that need to be worked on. I don't think it would be appropriate to continue to hold up pipe work, to wait on reports coming on plants, to wait on reports for alternate water supplies, to wait on reports for towers. We know the pipes are bad. We know that the problem caused with this water right now that we're looking at is from the pipes. I would hate to see us delaying another 6 months to a year, waiting on more reports on other aspects of this water system that will not affect what we have to do with the pipe work. I think we have what we need to begin at least implementing a plan for pipes. Start that. Because no matter what, you're not going to get one company that's going to come in for pipes, come in for a plant, and come in for a tank all at the same time.
It's going to be in phases anyway, so make the first phase the piping.
I think no matter what we do, we need to begin implementing a plan for the pipe relining, and continue to make progress on the plant and continue to make progress on the tanks. Pipe relining, I think, in my eyes, it's imperative that we begin the process immediately, I believe, to start putting out a bid.
Yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be able to dual track some of the work also, because these pipelining projects are
You
going to
could
take,
dual track a lot of work.
it's going to take years. It's not going to happen within 6 months
No,
or a year. So-
absolutely not.
So the tank issue has to be addressed.
100%.
And I think the plant, we need to really,
Really get our
start-
information on that.
Get our information on that
And the water
and
supply,
get
the-
moving on that. So I think what
Yeah.
we could do is, I agree with you with the distribution system, the water supply's got to get done,
Yeah.
right? But I think we can work simultaneously on the other aspects of water too as well. So
Absolutely.
don't
We
wait-
have to.
Right, don't wait to do the pipes, but we can work collectively on both of them.
And don't hold off on the water tanks in the plant because we
Right.
say we're working on the pipes.
Right.
We need to keep those projects moving as well.
Yeah.
Gather all the information that we can and
Right.
come up with a solution there. But I think right now, we've been presented with a solution for the distribution network. And we shouldn't do what happened with the recommendations we had 4 years ago with the tanks and let them sit.
Right, and did nothing, right, I agree. Yeah.
So maybe, like what Frank was requesting for the meeting in April, maybe Mary Ann could put something together, what it would cost per household with you know, with the piping, and then with the tank per se, with the numbers that, you know, not numbers cut in stone, and then with the filtration plant, like what Mike was saying, and then all together. So at least they have some ballpark figure, you know, it's not gonna be exact, but at least, you know, they can get it somewhat, what it should be
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
See, there's
We'll do that. So
nobody
that'll
else.
be for the April meeting up at the Hamlet. It's going to be at the Carmel Firehouse. What was it, April? And what's the
The
date? April 24th? April 24th at the Carmel Fire Department. You should all plan on attending that meeting. It's going to be similar tonight, but we'll have some facts and figures for you on what the approximate cost potentially could be if we went ahead and did all the work, which we're going to have to do. So I don't know if it's an if anymore, it's when we do it. All right, so you should know what your fiscal impact perhaps could be, monthly, and the annual cost as a district would be. All right, but I don't think we're too far off from the number we've been talking about here tonight, for everything.
My number's been the same for the minute I got this job. And my attitude's been the same since the minute I got this job. Do it all and do it all now.
Yeah, makes sense.
The longer you wait, the more it's gonna cost you.
Yeah.
That one to the
Is there anybody else that would like to come up and talk on this topic right now? All right, so we'll look forward to seeing everyone on April 24th, 7 PM at the, 6 PM, 6
Well, I think-
PM.
Oh, it's at
I
6?
think they might wanna stay for number 2 on the
Yeah, well,
agenda.
yeah, stick around for number 2 on the agenda.
Annie, it's at 6.
But
Which affects Carmel Water too.
6 PM.
It's at 6,
at
they
6,
just
Ann?
said.
Yeah, it's a special meeting, so that special meeting is going to start at 6, and it's going to be before the regular monthly meeting, which starts at 7, so. Can you put that out in the news? All right.
And then maybe, Bob, you can put it in, Mapac News goes up there, right?
No.
Parts of it? Oh, they don't?
Don't,
All right, maybe
no.
Eric Rose, so we can get that.
And-
Okay.
And Frank, in your newsletter or email blast, you know, make sure it's in red, bold, or blue bold for water. Urgent, please try to attend this meeting, you know, at 6 o'clock, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so stick around, folks, because this is going to pertain to Carmel Water District Number 2 as well.
Thank you, John.
Okay, number 2 on the agenda, Councilman Schneider. This is to consider a proposal for government relations services.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is something that I had worked on for a little while, about a year ago. Councilman Lupinacci and myself had gone down to go and interview a firm out of Manhattan that was referred to us by a local resident who retired from acting as attorney for New York City, has worked extensively with the state, worked with a lot of different politicians in the city, referred us out to this firm. We had interviewed the firm, and basically what we were looking to do was find a suitable representative and liaison to assist us with different governmental relations that would be relating to our infrastructure, not only with Water District 2, which we have here, but this would be across every one of our water districts and our sewer districts to try to alleviate some of the burden that is placed on not just our town, but on any town that is controlled by New York City water rates and by New York City watershed regulations. And we've gone through, at least I've seen 7 years of the inner workings of government, and I unfortunately have come to the realization that unless you have high-powered people who play the game, you don't really get much done being a small town in Putnam County, New York, trying to go against New York City or against New York State. So what I'm recommending that we do is utilize the services of this firm that specifically works with governmental relations in regards to New York City Water Board, New York City Watershed, and New York State regulations to assist us not only with the ability to improve our existing infrastructure, but possible expansion of our infrastructure, which will assist us in economic development, increasing our commercial taxpayer base, and effectively and hopefully relieving some of the burden that our residential taxpayers continue to bear because we don't have the ability to change the way that we unfortunately inflict taxes on our taxpayers. And without being able to develop and expand our infrastructure, I believe it would be near impossible to expand what we have for our commercial growth. So my suggestion is that we would be utilizing this firm as a governmental liaison on a monthly basis. When they had met with us last week in executive session, they had said that they would have a very, very good idea what type of progress they would be able to make within just a few months. The proposal is at $10,000 a month for a retainer, plus incidentals that would occur. They would be utilizing not only the representatives of their firm, but they would also be utilizing a gentleman who lives in our town, who is an attorney, and they would be utilizing him because of his inner workings and understanding of the way that our town operates presently. If you take this cost across the amount of parcels that we have, you're talking about every taxpayer paying less than $1 a month to have one of the strongest governmental relation firms working for us. So for a $10 outlay of every household, we could have this service for a year, and we would have a very good idea on where we stand if we're going to be able to actually take control of our infrastructure and what our future holds. That is what the proposal is. There are definitely hurdles that need to be crossed with anything that has to do with government, and unfortunately, I don't think that we have the capacity on the inside here to take care of that, and I don't believe that without having the right players in the game, that we'll be able to actually make any progress. So I am proposing that we engage in this contract for governmental relations, and I would say we could even do it on a basis 4 to 6 months to see what type of results we get. But at this point, I don't think that there's any other alternative that we have that would give us as good a probability of an outcome as we would have with this agency.
I know, I read through it, and I sent you guys the email. I had just a few concerns with this contract, and we could talk to them. But when we did speak with them, I mean, I can't say what we said in executive session, but I'm fine well, not with this contract per se, but if they revise it. My theory is that we have been trying for a long time to get the water down, your water costs down. And I'm not just talking about the residents in Carmel too, but for everybody. We've come real close to it, a year and a half ago? And then, actually they came, was it the DEP that came, or the DEC that came, and they did a whole presentation that they were gonna purchase land and.
That was the city.
The
City
city,
of New York,
yep,
DEC.
the city came, and then they had internal, I'm gonna say internal uproars, so that kind of fell apart. I wanna be able to get that back to the table and get that back, here. I do think that, these people will help. The one thing that I like about it is that there's a 48, hour, what is it called?
It's termination.
Termination. So if we see after a month, they're not, giving us what we want, we could say, hey, thank you, thanks for the try, we don't need your services. But unfortunately, I believe that we've tried and exhausted quite a few avenues, and nothing, we're close, and then it backs off, that this is worth a shot. And I know $10,000 a month is a lot of money, and, but I also see, like they say, we want to keep on moving forward, and I think that this is one avenue that's at least worth a try to get it. We may, in 6 months, we may say, yay, we got it done, or in 3 months, we would say, shoot, we tried it, where else can we go? It didn't work. But I do think for all of the residents in Carmel, it would, be best for, at least for us to try it. But we put it on the agenda today because we also want to hear your guys' thoughts on it, too. And it doesn't just have to be the people here, anybody can call us also. So that's my point.
John?
Okay, thanks, Sue. Anyone else?
John? Anything?
I've been, if you're familiar with my position, watching this or reading in the newspaper,
Councilman Schneider said that we went down to the city last year. We went down last year, and then 2 years ago, I went to White Plains based on recommendations of, I'm sorry?
No, I was asking for a throat loss.
Okay.
Thank you.
I went to, based on a recommendation of Greg Elner, I went to White Plains, and constantly trying to look at getting a government relation agent, because I don't believe that, you can sue New York City. I don't think it's the wisest thing. I think this is something that we should try to do. I know a lot of the residents of the Hamlet of Carmel, so yes, one of the topics of this government relations agreement would be to look at Lake Lenida and the water rates coming that the city charges Lake Lenida. You lower the rates, if you lower the rates, or if we get credit for what we put back from Sewer District 2, that could help offset some of the bond debt that we're going to be incurring based on the improvements. But the other aspect of it is down here in the hamlet of Mahopac, that, we don't own the plant, the sewer plant across the street, and, it limits, as Councilman Schneider said, commercial development from, say, Wall Hours all the way down to, Somers Commons, that border. So this is not just for the Hamlet of Carmel Water District 2 rates. This is any relationship that we could do with New York City. As it's already been mentioned, we have an out. It's already been mentioned. They also, I want to make this, they actually said that, they're not in it. This is a very large firm in New York City, Manhattan-based firm. They are not looking just to make money. Trust me, that firm in New York City is going to make money if they take Carmel as a client or not. But it's not going to look good for them if they just keep billing us and getting nothing done. And they actually said that. One of the acting partners, Ken Fisher, said, after 3 or 4 months, they're going to make their own evaluation. And if they're not making any treadway, they're not going to just stay in the business of billing the town of Carmel. Again, it doesn't look good for their reputation or their well-being, and it doesn't help us out. So this is something that I've been wanting to do probably for now 6 years, actively pursued it over 4 years ago, actively pursued it last year and 2 years ago. So I like the idea. It's going to be spread out, over the water districts and sewer districts on where it could help. We go from there. We have tried other things, and we'll see where this goes. So that is my position. We will not be accused of going slow or not trying something, because we have been accused of that, and I'm not talking about just before. Over my 8 years, I've been hearing, why don't we do this, why don't we do that, why don't we do this? And they're right. And I have been trying for 6 years, 2 years, 1 year. So, we finally got it, and we'll see where it leads. If it was $1 million, I wouldn't be doing this. If it's $10,000 to see what they could do in Albany, and they have key players. Since Water District 2 is here, when Jonathan and I went down there, we met attorneys in this law firm that worked on the water rate boards. That the board in the city that charges the cost of the water out of Glenida, they have attorneys that used to be on that board. So they have the knowledge of how it works, what could be done. So it's not like a little small boutique shop. This is a shop that has relationships, and they have relationship in the mayor's office up in Albany. So it's an attempt. Is it going to be 100% successful? I don't know. I hope it is, on both sides, in the hamlet of Mahopac and in the hamlet of Carmel. And if it's not, I will rest easy knowing that we at least tried something. So that is my take.
Yeah, and John, one other thing that I wanted to mention is that we can dual track this. I know County Executive Mary Ellen Odell has also been having meetings, and there's no reason why that cannot continue. it's good to dual track. The more fraction we get with, we can hopefully get this done. So by all means, this is not to stop anybody, we've also been talking with them, the county executive has, so it's not saying, no, everybody stop doing it, we're gonna hire these. No, let's all work together and maybe put pressure from all different sides. So we can, dual track with them and continue, to fight for the residents. I just wanted to add that.
No, that's fine. It's
Yeah.
also, I will add off of that, it has come over time since this has been announced that the county has been trying and working on behalf of Carmel, but that's unbeknownst to me. As an elected official, I think, we should have understanding of if another government agency, another government party in the county is trying to do something on our behalf, I think it's wonderful. But at the same time, we all have to get aligned on a group, an organized effort on whom we're talking to and what the outcome, because we do own, Sewer District 1, we do own Water District 2, Sewer District 2. The more aspect or the more angles we can come at it, great, but we have to be unified, we have to be aligned, we have to communicate. Again, I just found out that the community was doing it. During the summer, the county paid $50,000 on the Hopac side to do a study and to bring the sewer into Somers. I asked a question to Mary Ellen Odell and to the engineer that the county hired for $50,000 on behalf of the town of Carmel. Instead of just going to Somers, can we go to Peekskill? Can we go to the city and ask to build more plants or expand the plants? The answer was to both of those questions, no and no. We're working on Somers. Now I'm finding out that the county is working to try to expand the plant, which again is absolutely wonderful, because that's a positive, and there's a hope for value to be had. But when I asked the question during that summer, it was no. Now it's a yes, and now it's coming out that it's a yes when we're looking to hire a government relationship. So we could dual track it, we could work tandem, hand in hand, and I think that will be a positive across the board. Again, this is not a lot of money, and if I could
It
steal...
is a lot of money.
If I could
It is a lot of money.
If I could steal some, not thunder from you, but you sat at that podium many times during the reval, during the not reval, when I first went down to get the government relationship group in White Plains, you asked why they weren't hired. You asked Mr. Lombardi and everyone. I said I want to hire them because I want to do something. We have to try to do something. So I'm finally taking your suggestion on across that podium for many years is, when are we going to engage? When are we going to go out to the city? When are we going to try to get something from the city? This is my attempt.
Total waste of money. Flush it down the toilet. Every single penny of it. It's another $10,000 a month contract that is just a gift of taxpayer money. Okay? There are other things we could do. We could do internally for less than the price of the first month. Okay? I might not be here next week. You'll hear mine publicly now. I would vote no. Unequivocally no. I mean, it's just, you're hiring a New York City law, you're hiring a salesman, and they're not working with other towns. The other towns have different issues. All right? They're working for the town of Carmel. I hope everybody looks at their contract, because you should have seen the contract they gave us, because they wanted to do the legal end too, and a lobbying end. And their fees were from $275 for paralegal to $950 an hour for an attorney. I've been there. I've paid Park Avenue attorneys. Okay? If you think for a second that our bill's gonna be $10,000 a month, you're out of your mind. You are throwing away money. Might not sound like a lot, because we just talked about 30 million, but it's a lot. And it's not in the budget. We lost AIM money this year, $140,000. You take this $132,000 which is gonna be at least 150,000 minimum, that's 1.5% tax increase next year. Those two things. This contract and what we already lost. 1.5%. It's not in the budget.
That's if it
We,
goes
we
for
can
12
try
months.
things a lot cheaper before we do this. And the county exec's been working very closely. I speak to her once a week on Carmel Water too, and there are other things that can be done a lot cheaper. This is a total gift, again, of $10,000 a month. So if I was here, I would vote no. Hopefully, I'm going to be here, but I don't know if I can be.
In the future, could I ask, because the way, and again, it's, maybe things are changing, but in the past, at least for my 7 years on the board, if you're negotiating with a union, or if you're negotiating whatever, to have updates. If you know that she is negotiating for us either for the Carmel rates or that, could we have updates? Because again, I always heard she was trying or wanted to, and she mentioned to me she wanted to, but if you're talking to her and she actually is doing something, I'd love to know what she is doing, because there's 5 board members that you need 3 votes on, and if only 1 or 2 know.
Well, pick up the phone and make a phone call. Obviously, over the last several years, there's no communication between the county and this board.
I don't disagree that, and I
Okay,
disagree
whose
with
fault
that.
is that? Pick up the phone tomorrow morning and call her and ask her. There's 2 legislators right in front of you. If there's no communication between the 2 boards, it's not my fault. The first thing I did when I got on the board was make my phone calls. And I keep in touch with the school superintendent and the county executive at least every other week. So to use the word dual track is basically dual tracking your money. It doesn't go out once, it goes out twice at the same time. I'm done.
You done, Mike?
So any negotiation with a union now, the board members have to call?
No, no, I'm not saying that.
The union rep to find out what the other 2 board members, the liaisons for the board, talks to them, and then I got it.
If you got it, you got it.
Okay. With all due respect to my colleagues, I disagree with spending this amount of money for a lobbying firm from New York City. I just don't think it's going to be an effective use of taxpayer funds. I don't think they're going to be successful in their lobbying efforts. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I just don't think it's an effective way for us to utilize the taxpayers' money to hire a lobbying firm that there's no guarantees. And I understand with lobbyists, there's never a guarantee. They won't tell you whether that they've been successful or not. Maybe the end result could be months and maybe years down the road, that maybe their efforts may pay off, but by the time that happens, we're going to be in a really, really deep hole with money as far as paying them for that. It's never going to end, because lobbying takes months and months and months and months. Sure, it's month to month, or there's a 48-hour clause in the contract that we can break the
Or
contract.
they said they're going to walk away.
But they'll never say it. As long as you're paying them,
Do you
they'll never
believe
say
that?
it.
You give them
They
10,000 a
will
month,
never
they're gonna
say
tell
it.
you they
And
can't do anything?
And it's not gonna stop at $10,000 a month. It's what's in the contract is 10,000. There's a provision in here for an additional $1,000 if in excess of any one particular item. There's other items in here that they are gonna charge you for, that is above and beyond the $10,000 number. These may include costs to certain services such as special mailing, messenger, shipping, telecopy, photocopying, delivery, courier service, computerized research, search and filing fees, travel fees, and other fees associated, secretarial costs, transcripts, and other items. That's going to add up. That's going to be a huge number. So I understand the concept, and I wish I could tell you that I'd be comfortable with it. I am not comfortable with it at all. I don't think a town the size of the town of Carmel, 34,000 residents, needs to hire a Manhattan lobbying firm to help us, secure certain projects or New York City issues that, with the DEP that we currently have. I think there are other people that can help with that, and it's not gonna cost us any money. I think there's intergovernmental partnerships that we can form, and they can advise us. I think we can do a lot of that quote-unquote lobbying ourselves with our state elected officials and New York City officials. I don't think we need a lobbying firm to tell us that, oh, politically I know this one, or politically I'm connected with that one, because that's really what it's all about. Who has political connections in Albany, and who has political connections in New York City? We all have the same political connections in Albany. It's called our elected representatives, called our senators and our assembly people. So I just don't think that this is something that we should do. I think, and I said it earlier, with all due respect to my colleagues, if they choose to go this route, that's fine. It sounds like there's 3 of them that will approve this. I won't be one of them. I'm just letting everybody know that now.
Ken, can I add, actually, you said something that I didn't add in either. We're hiring lobbyists from a very solid Republican area to go lobby a Democrat-controlled state.
Yeah, I don't know how successful their lobbying efforts.
Representatives, you have a congressman that's a Democrat, you have a new senator that's a Democrat. Has anybody picked up the phone and called them and started dialogue? Yes. The congressman has power.
We're gonna have
Kenny,
public hearing, and
Kenny,
then, no, you can come up and say it when we have the public hearing in a matter of seconds.
With them.
That's what I'm saying, so she can come up, as opposed to yelling.
So, more to come on this. If there's going to be a resolution on this, it'll be at the next voting meeting, if the board's going to approve it. Whether they are or they aren't, it's up to them, of course, but I think you've heard all of our feelings and our thoughts on this, but, we'll have to see where it goes. All right, so what we're going to do is everybody finished? The board said their piece on this? All right, so we usually wait to the end for public comment on agenda items, but because you're all here now, and you probably don't want to sit through the rest of the meeting, we're interested in hearing your comments now on this topic. So anybody want to come up, Carl?
My name is Carl Albano. I'm a Carmel resident. I'm a legislator with Putnam County. I'm here with Legislator Sage. Legislator Sullivan would like to be here tonight. He's covering the county. I'm also a taxpayer in Water District, Sewer District 2 up in Carmel, so I'm very concerned about everything I hear. Right now, the county has an agreement, watershed agreement with New York City, so we do a lot of negotiations with New York City. Recently, there's a new, what they call Deputy Director, State of Affairs, a woman that works for NYSEC that has direct contact with the mayor. We seem to have a good relationship, and we're trying to build that relationship with New York City right now, and the DEC, DEP. I'd like to request that you table this, sorry, you got me.
Lobbying firm.
I'm tired, it's been a long day. Lobbying firm. And just give a little bit of time. Communication, I think, is the key, what you said. You should sit down with the county, because we do have a lot of stuff we're working on. Councilman Lupinacci said 50,000. It's actually 100,000, up to about 100,000 that we've spent studying the sewer situation here in Mayapack. So there's a lot of moving parts. We should sit down together. I think we can really complement each other. I'm glad you're looking at different ideas, and it makes a lot of sense. But obviously, we both don't know what's going on altogether, and we should sit and realize there's a lot could be done together. As far as Lake Oneida, we talk about the usage, the rates that we're paying. South of us, people are in litigation now questioning how those rates are determined. And if anybody has a cause to really question those rates, we're different than them in the fact that, number one, we're pulling from a natural water source. I don't even know if that's in there that you can charge for pulling from a natural water source. If you read their regulations and stuff, it says reservoirs, tributaries that connect reservoirs, aqueducts. It doesn't say anything about lakes. So you really have to question all of that. And if we could do something with the rates, it could offset some of these bonds that we're going to be dealing with in the future. I agree we should look at the whole picture as quick as possible and really get a clear indication of where we're going. It's imperative that we know what we're doing. And then we have to piece the puzzle together and prioritize. There may be some things that could wait 2 or 3 years, like we talk about the water towers. Let me see where else. Had a bunch of different notes. The other thing is we got to really look into grants. You look all around the country and you see money that's being spent with these major grants, especially with water and sewer issues. I forget what was it, Flint was the name of the one place that had... Flint, Michigan. I mean, there's tremendous amount of money out there, and it may take a little time, so we really got to jump on that. The last thing is, I know they talk about relining pipes. I'm not an engineer, I don't know. I would check to see where that's been done and how long has it been in place. I would tend to think there would be more issues with that, with connections and how long those pipes might last. I mean, I hate to spend double, but you want to do the right thing that really counts and not have any surprises. You may save a lot now, but then find that you have little problems as you go along with connections and things deteriorating. So I would definitely look and see how long those have been in place. Sounds like a great concept if it works.
We've done a couple in Rich Water District one, we've done,
Sewer.
sewer.
Yeah, that was sewer one, and it wasn't a concrete line project, so different. But this has been done, a lot of it's been done in the, down in Westchester County, so we can provide that information to you. So it's a tried and true method.
You don't have to
so-
provide it to me. I just say we should explore it and see, like, especially, I've seen sewer mains that go forever when they do that. Water mains, I would be a little bit, I would question it because of the pressure and everything that's involved. It'd be nice to see where this has been in place for 10 or 15 years without any other surprises. Just a suggestion. You don't have to tell me.
At least 10 or 15 years.
Well, yeah, at least 10 or 15 years, exactly. What else? Last thing I'd like to mention is we talk about the hospital line out there, and it makes absolute sense to look for an alternate water source. I mean, we may be pulling out a West Branch one day, but now that we're doing the updated filtration plant, perhaps there should be something on that end where the hospital is. It would give you potential for growth in the future. You'd be addressing two issues at once. We have to go through it now, so we might as well think to the next step of what could happen in the county. Feeding from the other end would just make a lot of sense. And then you'd have an alternate source should there be a problem to feed back and forth,
A redundancy.
which is a good engineering design. So, all right, good luck. I know you have a big problem, and yes, government does move slow. I really learned that the hard way. It's just very difficult to address all of these issues, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
So the end result is, I don't know if I said it, I would hope you could just table this until you do sit down with the county, so that we know we're all in the same direction and see where we could help each other.
Carl, can I ask you one
Yes.
question? And I don't know if you misspoke or if I misheard, but you said you have a relationship with a woman from NYSEC, or was that misspoke of
Yeah,
NYSEC?
she works for NYSEC, and, but it's a liaison.
Okay.
That reports to the mayor, and when I say it's a new thing right now, and I'm hoping that, it sounds promising.
Okay.
That it's like a direct contact where we could have maybe better discussions where we're going with all of this. And we'd like to explore that, so definitely we should sit down and
Your
talk.
suggestion of tabling it for a couple of weeks or a month, I don't think that's unreasonable considering it's been years. So let's see what happens next week.
Yeah, exactly. We have a little bit of time. This is not going to get solved in the next 2 weeks. It absolutely pays for us to sit down and talk.
Tabling it for a month so we can have a meeting
Exactly.
with you guys and the county exec is reasonable request. So let's see what happens next week.
We appreciate that. But again, it makes a lot of sense what you're looking at, and I understand it. I just think it would be a good idea if we're all on the same page and we know what exactly we're doing.
Carl, is that Ariana Kaplan?
I believe that's her name,
Yeah,
yes, thank
with the
you.
new- Yeah, Kaplan? She's a
Yes.
senior advisor for intergovernmental partnerships in
Yes.
Albany?
Yep,
Is that the woman? Yeah, she's
Thank
with the New York City Office of the Mayor.
right.
So she works out for New York City in the mayor's office, but she's assigned to intergovernmental partnerships. So she's like a liaison between
Yes.
municipalities and New York City.
Yes, and the contacts we've had so far with her seemed very positive, so,
And she's free.
yeah,
And it's free,
exactly.
yeah.
So, right away, we'll have a feeling where we're going with a lot of this stuff, too, when we get together.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Is there anyone else? Amy?
Hello, how are you? I'm Amy Sage. I'm a Mahopac resident. I'm also a fellow legislator with Carl. And I just wanted to reiterate what Carl was talking about, that I would respectfully ask that the town of Carmel table this agenda item pending and discuss how we can work with the county we can work together to achieve the town's objective along with the county. Before any taxpayer money is spent on ongoing projects over $10,000 a month plus expenses, I think it's imperative that we sit down with the board and the county officials to see what is already in the works, what we have done in the past and what we could do to work together. We should exhaust all options before spending money that may or may not prove any benefit. I think it would be in the best interest of the town and the county to be on the same page and work together for the taxpayer without spending additional monies. If nothing has been done, then that needs to be addressed as well. Let's see how we can approach this, what relationships we already have in place. And I have spoken with that woman at the NISAC conference, and I've spoken with the mayor's office. I've also reached out to Senator Harkam, and I sat down in his office and looked at him and his staff eye to eye to find out what his priorities were for in Putnam County. And he said he's already spoken to you, Kenny.
Yeah,
And he said that his priority is infrastructure. So I appreciate you already being on top of that and contacting the senator and working on infrastructure projects. So I think we need to cultivate these relationships with New York City, advocate for our needs, and isn't that what we are supposed to do as elected officials? That's what we're getting paid for. I'm just asking you to table hiring the government relations specialist until the board can discuss this with the county and see how we can all work together on behalf of the taxpayer, which of course I am one, as each of you are as well. And I appreciate you hearing me, and
Great.
Thank you.
Amy. Yep, thanks for being here. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak at this time? Come on up.
Before Mr. Butler speaks, if I could ask a question, because I'll be the first one to table it. You did say that you guys have spent $100,000 researching our sewer district here. We just authorized some more money. It was somewhere close to that number. It was originally $75,000. We just transferred some more money with additional work. Right, and this is where I'm going to request that we have some communication towards us. It is the sewer district that we're with. You talk about expending taxpayer money. Here's the town board, that's the commissioners of the sewer district. We actually came with suggestions at a meeting for which we were told, no, we're not going to do it. And now you guys are funding more money for suggestions we don't know about. Give us a summary of where you are, who you've spoken with, and what we can do to help you. And I'll be the first one to table it next week, make that suggestion, if it's something I believe is being done in the best interest of the taxpayer. Because right now, we have $75,000 plus more money that's being expended. We don't really have anything to show for it.
Well,
I'd rather spend $100,000 on getting a lobbying firm to try to work with us. So I appreciate you guys getting the communication and getting it back. And like I said, if the information, in my eyes, looks like it's something that I believe is going to be efficient, effective, and a good use of the taxpayer dollars, I'll definitely be tabling that resolution.
First of all, the money was not expended additionally. It was not used in one.
Could you, just because the people
John,
on TV, the people on TV won't be able to hear you.
It wasn't additional money that was being spent. It was money that wasn't spent in a sister project that was transferred over and reallocated. So it wasn't additional monies being spent, but it was all part of the same project. So it's not additional monies. But that's the whole point is
The communication.
communication,
There's none.
exactly,
There-
exactly.
there-
And I think we're all on the
I'm
same
gonna be-
page here. We all want the same goal,
gonna
and
be-
we all want to do it at minimal taxpayer expense, and I know that's your job as well. So maybe we should all get together. Maybe this is a wake-up call for all of us to say, you know what, let's just take a step back, and let's see what we have.
Well, there has to be communication.
Absolutely.
And there has, and there has been absolutely none. And it gets me a little bit ticked off.
Yeah, I know, me too.
That, you know, certain things are being done, and we don't know anything about it, and it's right in our backyard.
It's
in
all
our
part of that
town.
original,
It-
before I was
but-
even
yeah,
on
but
the.
Amy, you guys have been discussing things, nothing has been coming to us. If it's been coming to Kenny, which I don't think it has, because he shares it with us, nothing has been coming to us, and that's where our frustration is.
Well, the
That's
initial,
our
the
frustration.
initial come to us is.
It came to us, but no.
No, the initial come to us was, no, those options cannot be done, because I asked that
Correct.
question in an email.
Yes.
And on TV said, how about exhausting this avenue?
Right.
And the answer
Trying
was,
to
no,
exhaust
it's not
everything.
going to be done. I
No.
love that it is trying to be done. I totally love, so it's not like sour grapes like that, but.
It should have been
if that
done when
was-
he
if that-
requested it.
If that scope was expanded, I would have loved to have known about it.
Yeah.
That's all, and I mean,
Yeah.
and I think
And-
now we know, and we'll move forward.
Yeah, and I don't want to go back, because we can go back and we can get upset. Let's move forward, but in order for anything to work, there has to be communication on both sides. And if it doesn't, then the system is broken. And we're going to continue how we've been for the last umpteen years, and all the residents are going to be paying more money because the two governments can't get together and talk.
I'll speak. You know, what I could say is this, there's just so many moving parts, and you just know it. Behind the scenes, the county's working on a million different things. That's why we're here tonight, because when we saw this, this is the time that we should start speaking together. The one main thing that the county has on their mind is that sales tax, okay? That's the only thing we could do to offset our property taxes. And when we look at our corridors going out of the county, going west towards Peekskill, or going up towards Brewster, that seems to have the greatest potential. So at first, we look at sewers going in one direction, now we're looking at sewers going in another direction. We're trying to cover all grounds and see if it's feasible to build that tax base in that commercial corridor. And that's why we're here tonight. Well, I appreciate that, and you're absolutely right, communication is essential. And again, that's why we're here. So maybe this is the start of something good. Thank you.
Carl, and just let me comment on, you mentioned grant funding earlier.
Yes.
We've applied every
Great,
year.
great.
Annually with the CFA application, we've submitted that. With everything, we've included, you name it, it was in there. We've hired a professional grant writer to help us with that.
That's,
And it didn't pan out. We were denied. Again, it's
Yeah.
multiple years. It seems, you know, we've made the effort of applying for money through the EFC, through the CFA, you name it, the grant, we've applied for it, we've submitted it, and the end result was we were denied.
Right.
Denied it.
And you know what?
So, we've tried.
No, and I'm glad to hear that. And the main thing is to just keep applying, because it's amazing how sometimes grants come through when you least expect. And the other thing is, the more studies and information you have, they all raise your chances of getting these grants. It's difficult. The money's going everywhere, and I know, and I appreciate the fact that you're doing that, because
Yeah.
maybe one day we'll get surprised.
Yeah, no.
Just keep it up.
We definitely are. Whenever I see that there's a grant possibility,
Great.
we go for it. We go for it, you know, but unfortunately, you know, we just, you know, I don't know what the selection process is or who determines who gets what, but it seems like downstate here in this area, in Putnam County, it just doesn't seem like, you know, we have the same opportunities that other municipalities have in getting the funding. You know, I don't know if they look at the demographics, if they look at the median incomes, they may take all of that into consideration. So it's not a fair process. I don't believe it is, but we'll keep trying.
And
Amy, thank you.
unfortunately, for 7 years, we have heard from our state representatives that one of their priorities is helping with the infrastructure. We get a lot of nice checks for parks, but I still haven't seen a dollar come for our water or our sewer. And we keep asking for it. Something's got to get done.
It's because it's not
Yeah.
picture taking for them, that's why.
Yeah.
Well, this was like a political cage match here. It was very exciting to watch. I didn't know what was going to happen
gonna
there
sell
for a
tickets for
second.
next
Yeah,
week's.
absolutely. I just had a couple of very quick points. Legislator Urbano brought up an excellent point, and it's not the first time I heard it, and that is whether or not it's actually legal for New York City to be charging us for the water. And again, that's not the first time I heard that. In my personal opinion, the lobbying, Cozen O'Connor, the law firm, giant law firm, know them very well. I get this is not them, this is a lobbying arm of theirs. I think if we're going to spend any money, I'd love to hire a specialist attorney to research that one question, and just that.
We've been attempting to do that,
Yeah, that's
which.
the big
yes,
kahuna
that's
right
the-
there,
Yes.
because that drops the bill to
Yes,
zero. The other thing I wanted to say is just in terms, I read the contract very, very quickly, and it seems the lobbying company is going to hire a sub, who I believe is this gentleman from the town. Why do we need the lobbying firm? Why don't we just ask him to come in, and maybe we'll draw a much less expensive contract with him, if appropriate, as a consultant?
That's not the way it works,
It's
John.
all about relationships.
It's not the way, yeah, it's,
Governmental contracts like this are all about relationships. It's governmental relation services. So unfortunately, one person I don't think is going to have that. That's why you go to a firm where they have retired members of the water board, retired attorneys for New York City, retired attorneys for New York State, people who have worked on political campaigns for elected officials. Unfortunately, politics is about what you know, who you know. It's all about those backdoor things that happen. It's a horrible, disgusting career, and it's a disgusting cyclical environment that we live in. It's politics, and it's the only way something's getting done, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's been over 7 years.
Yeah.
We're not getting it done the easy way, which is, let's hire one guy, or let's utilize our local attorney, and let's say, figure out what we're doing.
Okay.
Because you know what, I've heard from the gentleman all the way on the end for 5 years, we need to hire someone, we gotta get a firm, we gotta get a firm, we gotta get a firm. And then we get a firm, and he says, we're working on something inside.
Okey dokey. I've seen plenty of legal bills, and, you know, the one thing I always notice is that
John,
whenever the partner bills, there's always 4 associates that are billing at the same time, and before you know it, it
For
gets
20
very
years.
very expensive.
for 20 years out there, I've never said, hire a lobby firm for Lake Lenida. I said, take them to court and let a judge tell you who owns that body
Yeah.
of water.
Yeah, that's the big question. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Anyone else that would like to come up and speak on this topic, come on up at this time.
Deanie LeBeau. I spoke earlier about contacting our Democrat representatives, our senator and our congressman, both of whom have tremendous amount of power in New York State. And we can work with them and use their services for free. And I'm not in favor of this agreement. I don't think it'll be fruitful. But I have to say that I was actually laughing sitting in the audience because the town has home rule. You guys control the sewer and the water. So I don't know why you would let the county usurp your authority. About a year ago, the county told us they had an agreement with the sewer plant in Somers. And we found out later that the county never bothered to pick up the phone and call the supervisor of Somers, nor did they contact the plant. They took the advice of a developer who owns property here on Route 6, who said he had a contractual agreement for capacity for the sewer plant. Well, that wasn't accurate. So I really think you should advocate on behalf of the town yourselves. That's why you're here. And I think that, again, working with our congressman and our senator, I think would be very fruitful for the town and won't cost any money. Thank you.
Just so you know, they both have been contacted.
And
And we're still waiting for a return.
I have,
You know.
I
You should
have a very
invite
good
them to come.
relationship with Senator Harkam. I was one of the first ones to invite him into my office after he won election. So him and I have gotten to know each other fairly well, and he's promised me that Carmel and Putnam County are going to be provided with grant funding for whatever type of project that they might be interested in. He said he'd support it.
Okay, maybe in the future, when this item is on the agenda, it would be nice to invite him to make sure that he's here and he can speak to the public, his constituency, and work together with the town so you can move this forward. I mean, I have no idea why the county is getting involved in sewer. It's something that the town controls and is responsible for. And so the idea that they are working independently without even consulting with you, and the fact that they're spending county money on it, I think is absurd, is really absurd. And in terms of sales tax, that's even more funny. It's even more hilarious, because last week, I think the planner, right, the town planner came forward with zoning recommendations to remove sewer and municipal water from multifamily housing up to 40 units on 1 acre.
That's an interesting proposal, isn't it?
Isn't it? Is that going to provide sales tax? I find this to be really amazing that the county is very much
There's a lot of
interested in the
things,
sewer
lot of
line.
things flying under the radar and the false news that's out there.
Again, you guys, it's your authority. You have home rule. You control sewer and water in the town. I wouldn't let the county usurp your authority. You know what's best for the people of Carmel, and take back your power. Again, I'd work cooperatively with higher officials. I'd reach out again to the congressman. In 2017, I was asked to help Society Hill with their sewage treatment plant, and there's water quality grants. I have the information, which I'd be happy to provide to you, and they provide loans at a very low cost, and for a project of this magnitude, $30 million, it certainly would comply with the requirements. So, I mean, to go in reverse after what happened last year with the county telling us that they had the sewer line and everybody was sending out press releases, and then the supervisor from the town of Somers sent you, Kenny, a letter saying that they were outraged, that they were never contacted or discussed about the size of the project on Route 6. I'm sorry, I have a sore throat, so it's straining for me to speak. That's all I'm going to say. You're the manager of the town, and I would take control of the situation. I wouldn't wait for anyone else to act. You guys have the power and the authority to act and get all the information and the costs. And again, I'd be more than happy to give you the information with respect to the low cost funding for water quality projects. That's it. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
I didn't
you.
expect to get up tonight, but.
Okay. Thanks, Deanie. Is there anyone else? Frank? The public's not used to you being on that side of it.
I don't really like it
Podium,
that much
Frank.
myself.
So,
And thank you for keeping the room nice and cold. I appreciate that. I really hadn't planned, Frank Lombardi, Mahopac resident.
you sit down.
I hadn't, yes. I hadn't planned to get it up here, but when you talked about this contract, I think you've known my point on this. We've talked about it and debated it for years. And especially now with the current climate that we're in, and with all due respect to other people who spoke, the congressperson who represents our area, I was an elected official. I had never seen him in 10 years that I was, or the 8 years that I was there. So good luck with that one, trying to get him here. The fact of the matter is now you have a very hostile legislature, New York City, who, it's not a coincidence that the New York Times did a story wondering why Putnam County, the lines, the blue wave stopped at Putnam, jumped over and continued voting Democrat. You're not going to get the assistance that you think you're going to get. I don't know if you had any conversations with the lobbyist in executive session, if he has been successful in doing what you're asking him to do. I know, Kenny, you're part of the East of Hudson organization. Is this something perhaps in a larger scale that can be taken on? I know Jonathan had talked about other towns wanting to get some help as well. But you know, we can continue to spend money, and we had a great idea, and we tried with the grant writer. It didn't work out, and one of the reasons it didn't work out is, again, we're red Putnam County, and nobody's here to do us any favors. When you're asking a lobbyist to do something, you're asking someone to trade or ask them for a favor, and I'm not sure what a lobbyist is going to, on behalf of the town of Carmel, is going to trade off or be willing to offer the city of New York in exchange for them lowering the water rates. And by the way, you all know that we can only sue them once a year for the current rate, and that never gets us anywhere. I'm not sure if, and again, I don't want to step into executive session, but if he hasn't had any success doing this, anyone, then I think that you should probably not spend the money, because whether it's $1 a person or $10 a household, it just keeps adding up and adding up and adding up. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Yeah, Frank, I happen to agree with you on your first topic that you spoke about when you came up with respect to Congressman Maloney. Yeah, who is right. I haven't seen him in years. I don't think he's been in Carmel or Mahopac since he's been in office. He may have been once or twice, but haven't seen him since, haven't heard from his office. So I don't think they're paying too much attention to the town of Carmel or Mahopac, because that's not where his voting base is from, or where they're located. So I just don't know if that's going to be, if that would pay off. It's worth a try. I'm looking at you before, because you brought it up. You mentioned it.
I have spoke, I don't know, guys. I think I kind of answered it. I have spoken to him about this, and nothing he's seen, nothing has happened. I will call him again and ask him. But I've spoken to him about this, yes, just like we spoke to Senator Murphy, just like I spoke to Congressman Maloney.
I spoke to Joe Donut.
You spoke to
Joe Donut is the,
Yes,
so he's the liaison. You probably won't speak directly to Congressman
No,
Maloney.
I did.
Okay, you did?
Yes,
Well,
yes.
you're one of few that have actually
Right,
gotten through.
but it didn't get us anywhere.
Right.
Didn't get us
So-
anywhere.
So
Yeah,
we've tried.
We've tried everything.
We have tried.
And that's why I'm saying,
not a nuance for us. We've been making efforts, we've been making attempts, and it's just not panning out. So I agree with you. So,
Kenny,
yes, sir.
we got a big agenda.
Yeah, I know it, I know. All right. Is there anyone else on this topic, on this item? No, okay, so let's move on. Good night, everybody, thanks for being here.
Get home safe, be careful of the ice.
Bye now.
Rich,
All right.
Mike,
Get home
the public
safe.
used up all your time, so be
Bye,
quick.
Frank. Yes, you're welcome.
Be
Bye,
very
Frank.
quick.
All right. See ya. No, it's,
Be very quick.
his brother was out. Tom? Let him go.
Here's another one over
See ya.
there. Mine's over, mine's over there, Marianne.
Oh,
Nicole's got mine.
where's John go?
Yeah, look.
Is he leaving?
At the end of the meeting, you give it to him. You saw his shiver.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Okay, we're going to go on with the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for being here for the first two items. Number 3, Rich Franzetti, PE Town Engineer, consider request to attend New York City DP Water Loss and Reduction Control Workshop, February 2-6, Renaissance, Westchester Hotel, Harrison, New York, at no cost to the town. I think I covered that one already.
I don't know if I need to say any more.
I don't think you do.
Okay with it.
No,
What-
you
Mike,
can
did
go.
Do you want me to add some?
Well, nope. So, everybody okay with Rich going to that conference?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Number 4, Rich Franzetti, consider request to authorize payments for repair services at various town districts. Rich, you do have to handle that one.
Oh, I thought you had it covered.
Oh, you can't escape that one.
This is being presented to the board to request payment of repair invoices. It's the invoices over the town procurement policy threshold. Carmel Water Districts 1, 8, 10, and 13, filter plant compressor upgrade. On January 29th, B&J, the operators of Carmel Water Districts 1, 8, 10, and 13, notified the department that additional work was needed regarding the compressor upgrade at the filter. The work entailed additional piping so as to keep the existing compressor in operation and to be used as a redundant backup system. The invoice is in the amount of $7,910, and B&J already has performed that work.
Hey.
So we've advised the controller, and there are sufficient funds in the budget for the work as described.
Yes, sir. Any questions, comments, or concerns about this item Rich just covered? Authorizing payments? He did the work?
If anybody has spoken to Joe Scollin about that compressor system, he raves about the new compressor system. It's the old one.
Oh, I know.
He sent me 10 pictures.
Just
Oh.
10?
It's like a newborn baby.
Just 10?
Hey, Rich, I have one question for you.
He compared it to the lunar landing module. That's how sophisticated it was. It's, oh, he loves it, so he's having a great time with it. I'm sorry, Supervisor.
Okay, back on topic. The gensets for Houston Road and Belden Road, do we have an update on that? The new gensets?
Still, they're on order. We're waiting for, there's backup on there right now, and we're just waiting for the new units to come in.
Okay, all right, good. That's an update.
Thank you. And don't forget, I'll have the thing for the tanks for next week, right? So.
Yeah, yep, perfect. Okay, next item, Mary Ann Maxwell, Town Controller. Mary Ann is here for 5, 6, and 7. So 5 is to consider request to authorize budget revisions December 2018. Mary Ann?
Thank you. Getting a little bit of a complex, everyone left.
I know, but
It was me.
you were coming up.
All right, these are the budget revisions for December 2018. So we're currently finishing out, closing the year, so we looked at some of the lines that were over budget, and we are able to transfer or provide funds within the general fund or within any of the funds to cover these lines. I'm just going to go over a couple. You know, I'm not going to cover each one, but I will mention a couple. The first one in the general fund, we're providing $1,300 for a cleanup of a property, and that's from anticipated revenue. Number 3, in the general fund, we're transferring a total of $17,200 in legal fees to various legal lines in the general fund. Number 5, in the general fund, we're transferring $32,000 for police overtime, and that's also coming from a police staff line budget. Number 6, we're transferring $10,000 into the police uniform expense line. We did hire 6 police officers last year, so we had to cover the expense for the uniforms. Number 7, we transferred $6,000 for highway garage heating expense. Number 8, we transferred for the sander, the dump truck, a sander for a dump truck, and that was a total of $5,100. On page 2, in the highway fund, we provided for payment of accrued sick time of $3,800, $3,846. Also in the highway fund, we provided for anticipated revenue from sale of materials of $3,000, and we transferred for highway expenses and snow plow blades a total of $89.50. In Carmel Water District number 2 and Water District number 5, we transferred for emergency repairs, $40,000 in Water District number 2 and $2,000 in Water District number 5. Water District number 8, we transferred $5,000 for utility expense. Water District number 10, we provided for utility and emergency repair. A total of $17,000 came from the fund balance because there were no funds left in the expense lines in that district. Carmel Water District number 14, we provided and transferred for equipment and emergency repairs. A total, excuse me, a total of $17,500. $10,500 came from the fund balance. In Carmel Sewer District number 4, this fund took a big hit. We had to transfer $20,000 from the fund balance, and then we expensed the rest of the money from the expense lines. The total transfer was $57,000. And then in January, we also had some additional overtime in that district, so there's some issues in Sewer District number 4 that the operators are addressing.
Yeah. The water.
Yeah, something with the sewer.
The water, the I&I getting into the sewer.
Exactly, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think there is an ongoing issue in
Yeah.
Sewer District number 4. I'm watching the fund balance to make sure it doesn't drop too low.
Okay.
But anyway, I've been working with Rich and the engineering department on that. 3 I wanted to mention is in the general fund, the highway fund, and Carmel Water District number 2. I do see that there's surpluses in those districts in the general fund and highway fund and water 2. So I'm recommending that we transfer partial surplus into the debt funds to help pay down future bans that we have issued. We've issued bans for the airport project, highway fund, and then obviously the water 2 project that we issued a ban on last year. So I'm recommending that we take some of the surplus, $700 in the general fund, $500 in the highway fund, and $400 in water 2, put that money into the debt fund, and then pay down those bans, or partially pay down those bans. So that's what those transfers are, so I'm recommending that the board agree with that. And then in water-
Marion, I'm sorry, where are you going to be keeping the remainder of the surplus money, funds? Where, you're transferring these amounts that you're
Into the
showing?
debt funds, yes. And then I'm going to come to the board when we're ready for the audit.
Yeah.
I'm also looking to transfer some surplus into the capital fund, which could help pay for the Mayapack Bank properties.
Right.
So I'm recommending moving $500 into the capital fund. And then I think we have to transfer more money into the comp absence fund balance to pay out future retirees. So there is some additional surplus that I'm going to recommend keeping in the general funds, but moving to specific fund balances to use for capital projects. Comp absences, I think our certiorari fund balance is sufficient. I don't think we need to change that. So I'm still looking at the fund balances to make sure that they are sufficient, and then if we have surpluses, I'm recommending that we transfer some surplus to the debt funds to pay down debt, and then keep some surpluses in the funds to manage, what we need to manage.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
So, and Carmel Water District number 5 and 9, we're transferring just project balance to the debt fund. So, any questions?
Any questions, comments for the controller?
No,
On
thank
this
you,
item?
Marion.
Okay.
Hopefully, this will be it, and we'll be able to close the year. The auditors are coming in about a month, I think, mid-March. So
All right, go on to 6, Marion. Consider
Six.
request to authorize encumbrances in the 2018,
This is-
for expenditures in 2019.
Yeah, this is an additional year-end procedure that I do. I look at the expense lines that still have money, so, and then if they still have money, we're gonna transfer that balance into the 2019 budget. So I'll just cover a couple of them. 55,000 in data imaging equipment, we're gonna transfer to the 2019 budget from money left over in 18. 73,435 will be moved over into 2019 for software conversion. 100,000 is still in the contingent account, and that's for the master plan and town code. We also budgeted 100,000 in the 2019 budget, so we do have 200,000 available to use towards the master plan and town code. 20,000 is being moved forward to the 2019 budget for police live scan. 44,482 for the remaining parks video surveillance. 18,500 for renovating Sycamore Fields. And these are things that were budgeted in the 2018 budget that were not done, so that's why we're moving. I've talked to Chief Kazari about the police lines, and I talked to Jim Gilchrist about the recreation lines. We're transferring $12,650 for fence repair from an insurance claim. We did receive the insurance money, but we need to repair the fence still. $13,350 for bathroom upgrades. That's at McDonough Park. 18,250 is being transferred to 2019 for irrigated fields and water system at McDonough Park. 24,000 for basketball court recoating at Camarda Park, and 120,849 is still remaining in the park capital improvement line. In the highway fund, there's 250,000 in the machinery capital expense. So we do have 250,000 to use towards a new truck for the highway fund. And then 64,322 for the dry hydrant and Mayapack Falls Fire Department.
Okay, good,
Okay.
Marianne. Yeah, very
Thank
good.
you.
Any questions, comments for Marianne on item 6?
No, thank you.
No, very good, Marianne. All right, so 7, Marianne and I are both actually doing 7. That's why it's down Supervisor Schmidt and Town Controller Maxwell. Governor's proposed cuts to state funding known as AIM, aid incentives to municipalities. This is something that you're all aware of. I'm sure you heard that the governor's 2020 budget, he's proposing, or he has indicated that he's going to remove aid funding for towns and villages in New York State. I did get some correspondence from the Association of Towns that commented on this, and they indicated that they wish they were writing under better circumstances. In case you're not aware, the governor's proposed 2020 budget includes unprecedented cuts to the unrestricted state revenue sharing program known as aid and incentives to municipalities to the tune of $59 million, effectively gutting the program, and the town of Carmel will lose $140,362. So that's a lot of money that is being proposed that we could lose in state funding, which would have a significant impact on our budget for 2020. Not this year, because we did receive the funds for 2019. It's the 2020 budget that we're concerned about. So just to give you a little history on this, I had Marianne run the numbers on this. When we started receiving state aid, the AIM program, AIM program funding, we started receiving money in 2008.
Kenny, I think we received it prior to that. I just
Went
only
back-
went back to 2008.
2008,
I mean, I think
2008.
we've been receiving it.
So it's
You know,
been
so
pretty
it's-
consistent since 2008 up until 2019. It was a little bit more in 2008 and 9, and then there's a slight bit more in 2010. But the average has been since 2011 through 2019, the number's been 140,362. I think this is just absolutely absurd that the governor's even proposing to do this. He probably needs the money for some programs that he's funding, either the MTA or college tuition. You've heard about that with this free college tuition that is being proposed up in Albany. So they need money to fund that, and $59 million could go a long way, but it's at our expense. So if these cuts go through, 91% of the towns will permanently lose their AIM funding. The governor's reasoning for the cuts, the governor stated that the growth of reserve funds in towns and villages, the result of years of prudent, he's just using this as a reason, meticulous spending, was why he stripped the towns and villages of their AIM funding. So this will have, I don't want to read the rest of this because it says the same thing over and over again. So what I'd like to do, and I spoke to Mary Ann about this, and I think the board would be supportive of this, I think we need to, and Greg, you'd be preparing a resolution, I'd like to see a resolution urging the New York State representatives, the senators and assemblymen, and also the governor to reconsider the AIM cuts to the towns and villages across the state. I think there has been a full court press by the towns and villages that have has indicated that they would lose this funding at the governor's office. So I think he's been hearing from a lot of folks, a lot of towns and villages, and they're not happy about it. And the state representatives who represent those respective towns and villages, ours would be Senator Harcum and Assemblyman Byrne, they've been hearing from the constituents also. So I just think it's time that we need to send a message to Albany that we're not happy about it either in the form of a resolution and a letter that's going to go up there. And I think he may be reconsidering the cuts because there's been a lot of political pressure from a lot of constituents and elected officials aimed at Governor Cuomo for this, directed at him, indicating that his cuts are not something that we're gonna take too lightly because it's gonna impact our budget. $140,000 loss in our budget and revenue is about, is it at 1% or about a little bit less than 1% of the budget? So that's something that, will definitely, impact us if it goes through. So as I said, I think the governor's reconsidering it, but we need to keep the pressure on. So I'm asking for a resolution for next voting meeting, right? If you need me to help you with the language, but I think you get the gist of what we want in it. Okay? And
Kenny, I would also suggest, I think that's a great idea, I would also suggest making it like a template letter and let the residents just sign their name to it,
Yeah.
or just get one and sign their name, and send the resolution with, 2,000 signed letters from the residents, every single person that lives in a house that's 18 and over, and send that up to them. That's where it's gonna speak, because they're thinking, oh shoot, that they're coming to vote,
Right.
Because they're not gonna stop the state-funded mandates, they're gonna still give us the mandates, so they're taking away money, and now they're just gonna order more. So maybe if you can work on getting a template together, and just having it here, so any residents that wanna pick it up, they can sign it, and, put it on the website. Yep, and just give them the address of Harcum and Burns and Governor Cuomo to send up with that.
Okay. All right.
Just a suggestion.
No, I like the suggestion. I do.
Yep, and it can be a really simple format.
And
We do
where
not
did Andy say that we could
put it on the website,
on the website?
where they can just print it off, sign their name, and boom.
Okay. All right. And that'll
Yeah.
accompany the letter that we're going to be
Yep.
sending up along with the resolution to Albany and to Harcum and Byrne
Yes.
also. All right. Okay, let's do that. All right. Thanks, Greg. All right. Mary Ann, you didn't have to say a word.
I didn't.
Yeah, you knew that too.
Thank you.
All right, next, Chief Kazari is here for 8, 9, and 10. Chief, 8,
3 minutes.
Chief, is to consider request to enter into intermunicipal agreement with Putnam County Sheriff for CICU Services Crash Investigative Construction Unit. Chief?
So we're proposing to partner with Kent and the Sheriff's Office to do accident reconstruction. Luckily for the town of Carmel, we don't have, how about now?
Okay.
Yeah. Luckily, town of Carmel, we don't have that many fatal accidents, but by putting the 3 agencies together, we'll have more equipment, shared staff, and we'll our officers and the deputies and the county officers will gain the experience from handling more of these situations.
Okay, let's hope we don't need their services, but if we do, we have a team
It happens,
That-
so
yeah,
let's
yep.
have the best that we can have.
that we can do, sure. I agree with that. Any
So
questions?
Chief, yeah, I do. So is it gonna be specific, like you're gonna have specific officers be part of the, what do you guys call it, SURU? SURU? SURU?
Accident reconstruction training, they're all going to need to go, we have 3 officers now that are trained. They're going to need to be cross-trained in the equipment that everybody else uses. So yes, it's specific people, just like with the emergency response team. It's people that are specially trained to do this.
Specific, now, is it like the emergency response team that if something happens in Kent, they're gonna go over to Kent and, do the reconstruction, or do they just stay in the town of Carmel and do that? Or
No,
is-
they're going to do, just like an arson, the county has an arson team, which we're not part of, but they go everywhere in the county. So our officers will be on loan wherever, the fatal accident or the serious accident happens. They'll be there to do the reconstruction, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
These would be our detectives, I think.
No. No,
Tom,
we need our detectives for taking the photographs and whatnot. It's usually been a police officer. Tommy Johansson, Brian Shea. Bailey used to be, Ed Daisy was one, and I think there's someone else that I'm not
Cave?
thinking.
No. No. Yeah, 3?
It's going to be bad that I don't remember who it is,
We have
but
3?
yeah.
Shay?
Just name a name so it looks good.
Oh, John Lupinacci was the other one.
Number 9.
9, request to purchase car computer, 5,000 DCJS grant, number T103513.
So I think you received the email that I had forwarded. In July of 2018, we received a $5,000 grant from then Senator Murphy for equipment. Apparently, they sent it to the wrong email, and when I followed up again and again and again, they finally sent us that email and said, oh, here it is. So I just need authorization to spend the $5,000, and they will reimburse us.
You got it, number 10?
And so number 10, number 10, we did the bid process for uniforms. I would like to award the bid to Owenville Arms. They're in the Bronx. The distance is just about the same as going to Danbury. I sampled their embroidery and their different products, and it meets our standards. They are a reliable bidder. And they were $6 less.
Bronx is as close as Danbury?
Exit 8? We're in Danbury.
All right, so let's,
I mean, from a kid from the Bronx, I like that, but
how
I
far?
want you to go fast, but I gotta ask you.
All right, so it's this much further.
we need a little smile at this hour.
Wait a minute, what number are you guys on?
We're done.
Keep going, we gotta keep going.
What happened to 9?
He's doing Glenn Drosy's number 13 next.
Oh, yeah, so what was that one?
Thank you, Chief.
All right, Chief,
Want me to do Glenn?
you're doing Drosys?
Thank you very much. Good night.
All right, thank you. Owenville Arms. Oh, I know who that is. Wait a minute, yeah.
Next.
All right, okay, I'm gonna do, guys, order in my room, order in the meeting room. This isn't Drosys, this is Carnaz's, guys.
We were skipping it.
Okay, consider request to authorize payment, property compliance cleanup, 39 High Ridge Road, I know where that is.
It's a mess.
It's a mess, yeah, but Mike's Blue Wheel did a great job cleaning it up. For $285, that was cheap.
Brown's Corner.
Really. He gave us a
How
good deal
much?
on that. $285 for the cleanup.
That's really cheap.
You know where the property is, too.
I walked it.
Yeah,
That's cheap.
it's cheap. That was a disaster there. So, we're gonna, everybody okay with authorizing Mike's Blue Wheel to be paid $285 for the cleanup?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, and the bank will eventually pay that, or somebody will pay that $285, so the town will get it back. We're not gonna be out that. It could, right, or it'll be at the end of the year, it could be levied, right? Yeah. All right, Justice Court, consider request for authorization, resolution acknowledging examination of an audit report for fiscal year ending 12/31/18. This is from Pat Jenna. The Office of Court Administration requested the copy of the court's audit report for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018, a copy of the town board's resolution acknowledging that the examination was conducted, an email to the courts or email to Joan Cazella, Intercontrol Liaison, blah, 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 Castleton on the Hudson. The court has scheduled date of January 28th for such examination. The whole thing just didn't make a lot of sense, but,
The Justice Court has to open their books
okay.
under the Uniform Justice Court Act to the governing municipality once a year. It's really an informational and not necessarily an audit
We need
function.
just a resolution for this?
Acknowledging that you received it pursuant to the
Okay.
UCJA. I'll prepare the resolution. It's
All
got to be
right.
done every year.
Okay, Your Honor. You'll know how to prepare it.
Thanks.
All right. Next, Justice Court, 13, Drozy, Town Assessor, consider request to authorize water reduction assessment for tax map 75.43-2-21. Please put on the attached application for water reduction assessment from the Demis on the next available town board work session. Mary Ann, you're familiar with this one, the Demis. Based on Rich Franzetti, engineer's determination, the property is not capable of being benefited by the Water District Number 10. Facilities, I recommend that the Water District units be reduced to 0. Thank you, Glenn Josie, Assessor. You know what to do with that one, too, right?
Yeah, that's under your water code, and if a property's not benefited by a main, they're exempt from capital assessment. Upon application, the application gets submitted to the engineer, the assessor, and reviewed, and the assessor has the authority to reduce the capital units in the corresponding assessment, and usually you'll just acknowledge that that happened. Okay, and that's what Glenn's telling me.
If they ever want to come back, they'd have to pay back capital.
You
correct?
understand, they're paying, well, for the gap period, but they're
gap
asking
period,
for
yes.
the reduction because they're paying capital and not
And they're not
benefiting.
benefiting.
You did.
Correct.
The way this came up is the resident came into our office and asked about his, his taxes, and he's paying Water District 10, is it 10? I think it's
10, yeah.
Yeah, he's paying Water District 10 taxes, so I said, well, you're in the district, you're required to pay. But then I guess Rich looked into it.
You and I spoke about it.
Yes,
and
we
then
spoke
they
about
looked
it.
into that.
Rich looked into it. He had Joe Scollin go out to the property with Rich. They determined that it was not possible to, or very difficult, to connect.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So then the process, we went over with Greg, and, they had to get the town assessor involved. He had to make a recommendation, and then went back to the town engineer, and then back to the assessor, and then it needs a resolution, so. It was a learning process for me, too, because I've never seen, heard this
I
come
never
across,
have, too,
so.
and actually,
Yeah.
I learned a lot by this whole.
I always
application.
thought, because you're in the district, you're
Right.
required to pay. But
If you can't-
if it's,
Yeah,
You can't reach a main
you can't.
over
access
your
it.
property,
Yeah.
or property you have a right of access over, a legal right of access over, then you can be exempted from the
Yeah.
capital, but you have to apply. People
right,
pay for years before they realize,
Right.
I'm paying this capital assessment, and I don't have
I had
access
a,
to a main. And sewer too, and sewer as well, I should say. Same
Right.
thing. Gotta be, then
Greg, I had a very in-depth education on this, an explanation as to
Right.
why
Yeah,
and I even drew it on my whiteboard in my
Yep.
office. You guys saw it?
yeah, we had Joe Scollin
I
come
believe I
in.
saw the
Joe
artwork.
Scollin came in, and
Yeah.
he actually helped me identify the homes that I was looking to identify. The issue up there is the main runs in the backyards. It's not in.
Exactly.
in-
You would
Most
need- you would
mains
need
are
an
buried in the
easement
roadway or on the shoulder
in
of
the
it.
yard or something.
This one is in the backyards of the homes opposite where this gentleman lives. So there's no way to access the main from where he's located,
Right.
so. Because I was a little skeptical at first, like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
That he can't access the main when all the other homes around him are tapped into the
Exactly,
main?
his neighbors, here,
all
everyone's
are.
connected. I'm like,
Yeah.
how could he not be
But
connected?
but after
But
the
You
operators
would need
and
an
Rich
easement in the backyard of
explained
his
it.
neighbors or
Are we
something,
gonna open
so.
up to general public?
I'm waiting for you to kick me, is what I'm waiting for.
He's telling me to kick
Yeah.
you, but I'm being polite.
All right, Nicole, do you want to come up and say anything? No? Okay, all right, so we're going to go on to town board announcements. I just have one. This one I like. Carmel Town Hall will be closed Monday, February 18th, 2019, in observance of President's Day. So next Monday, this coming Monday, the town hall will be closed, and will reopen on Tuesday, February 19th, for normal business hours. That's all I have. Anybody else have anything? Announcements, Jonathan?
something, but it's not worth it.
You good? It's not appropriate to say it tonight. Oh, don't say it. No, I know what you're gonna say.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, don't worry, yeah. All right, we don't have executive session, so we're gonna close the meeting right from here. I need a motion to close, and we'll be meeting here next Wednesday, the 20th? You won't be here? Is it you? Maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we'll be here next Wednesday, the 20th, right, Greg? I'll be here. Yeah, the 20th for a town board voting meeting. I need a motion to close.
Second.
So moved by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. All those in favor? Aye. Aye, good night, everyone. Good night, Vinnie, go to bed.